School Board meeting of September 19th to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have proof of posting with the superintendent. Before we get on to the next agenda item, opportunity for the public to address the board, I just want to thank many guests tonight. We had a little social event for staff and welcoming new teachers to the district, new staff to the district. It's quite a big number this year, and we're happy to see you. Everyone coming back, it's good to see you as well. We do have opportunity for public to address the board at this point. Do we have any public that want to join us? Seeing none, there'll be a second chance later on in the meeting. In the packet are the minutes for the previous meetings. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for August 15th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, August 15th.
Second it.
Any feedback on the minutes or adjustments? Hearing none, all those in favor of minutes as of presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? None. Motion is unanimous. Handing out next the non-public minutes from August 15th.
Oh, thank you.
They can. Okay. Huh?
Or I don't have them in front of me.
We did. Yeah. In the public minutes.
I don't need it. That's why you take minutes.
I can go back.
Well, no, I see that we accepted it, but
We have to.
okay.
You know where I'm.
We didn't, right. We didn't
Right.
accept it.
Okay. But I thought, so I just. Thought. Yes, we did go.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that was a correction.
Motion to accept. Motion to accept non-public minutes of August 15th, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Tremblay,
Second.
second by Mr. Hyde. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any abstentions?
Aye.
No abstentions. Motion's unanimous. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's update. If you could bring those yellow sheets back, that would be great.
The opening of school went quite well. All the teachers were excited to be back, as I mentioned in my report, as were the students and their teachers. Everyone was excited. The primary issue that we've been dealing with has been our bus transportation, specifically the tardiness of our elementary runs, specifically several are not running on time, but buses 8 and 10 are running later, much later than they should be. I have last week let me back up. On September 12th, which was last week, I did a video call with the general manager for First Student and the location manager and expressed my displeasure about the first week, how it went with, on the first day of school, the buses forgot students at the various, on a number of daycare centers on the routes. We got that straightened out the very next day, but I expressed that it wasn't trending expressed displeasure that it wasn't trending in the right way, and if it continued, I would be invoking the liquidated damages clause in the contract. Subsequent, after that call, they said they would give us revised routes. We got them last Friday, the Friday of our first week back. We didn't get them all. We got some on the Friday. We got some on September 11th. Ben, Brad, Matt, and I spent 3 days, roughly about 2.5 hours each, going through the drafts that they gave us. We found a number of inconsistencies or errors, so we sent them back. We got a new batch on Monday. Yesterday, we just finished doing the Collie routes today, and we'll be going over the elementary routes tomorrow with our goal of hopefully, if not Friday, definitely Monday, having updated routes for everybody. We didn't want to just keep sending out periodically, oh, we got another bus change. We want to do them all at once. But it just takes, for folks who might be watching and for the board, it takes an extraordinarily long amount, a long time for us. We literally go through each route. We're in the room next door in the annex. We got the big TV screen. We got Google Earth. We punch in the address and we follow it to make sure that it's accurate. And it just takes time to do that. We don't have the software. We're trying to verify. They have brought bus drivers in who are experienced with the Hooksett routes to help make suggestions. We believe that they take the suggestions and then send it to their scheduling department, their scheduling arm of First Student, and then they come back different than what got sent in. So what we did was we did Collie today. We finished Collie today. I gave them a directive, don't touch anything. This is going to be our Collie run. Because we only had to make a few changes to the Collie. The Collie bus has been running okay. They've been running on time. Our challenge is the elementary runs. And we're going to have the two bus drivers, the two experienced ones, working with us tomorrow, the principals, to try to clarify this once and for all. I expressed in a number of emails dismay, displeasure, frustration that such a large company as First Student hasn't figured this out yet. And they really, they apologize and they're very polite and everything, but it doesn't solve our problem of the kids arriving, getting picked up on time for the littles and getting dropped off on time. So we hope to have that resolved shortly.
Appreciate that update. Questions for the superintendent, Ms. Baker?
Can you explain to us what that clause is in the
Liquidated
contract?
damages means that for every time they miss a bus stop, it's a $150 charge. And then I notified them in writing this week of that we're going to be implementing that. And I have a meeting with the general manager and the location manager in person in my office on Friday. They have the opportunity to tell me how they're going to fix it. Then they get a 30-day window to fix it. But my interpretation, and Gordon's, is that those fees keep running. So the problem with the bus, trying to get the buses right, is holding up our rollout of First View, which is the bus tracking. We don't want parents, if the routes are inaccurate or they're running behind, it doesn't make sense to say, well, yeah, you're going to see your child's bus is behind. Well, we already know that. So we want to make sure the routes are as efficient as possible. An example would be one of the Collie runs early on. They had Carrington Farms and Brookview, which are like some of the biggest stops that we have in town, all on one bus. And they were like, oh, well, there's 70 kids on the bus. Well, no kidding. So we had to, Matt and I worked with them, split them up, and I conveyed early on, why wasn't this done? Because we sent the bus routes to them in June. We had meetings over the summer. How's it going? Everything going okay? Yep, everything's fine. Everything's fine. They got the routes to us in early August, and essentially for the last month, we've been working on bus routes. It's hard to believe, but even though they're not where we want them to be, they're much better than they were when we first got them. And I just want to thank Matt, Ben, and Brad for all the time they have. And we're lucky because they have 3 really good assistant principals, so I can pull them off for 2.5 hours at a time each day, and I shouldn't have to do that, obviously, but we're lucky we got a good team of people that we can do it. So I don't trust what they give us. That's why we have to review it all, because the worst thing we can do is not check it and then it'd be worse than it was. And at least this way, we'll own it. We're signing off on it this time. So sorry for the long dissertation on that, but it's been the bane of our existence for the last 2 weeks. And we are, I want people to know we know it's not right, and we're working to fix it and pulling every lever we've got to get their attention.
Thank you, Mr. Rarick. Other questions for the superintendent?
Oh, one last thing in my report, sorry. Not buses. I met with Dr. Powers last week. We normally meet in August, but due to my knee recovery, I wasn't able to meet with him. We talked about a couple of things, but I think the most important one was the start time conversation we had. I expressed our reservations, how that would negatively impact our families. While all the data shows that it's great for kids, high school kids, to start school later, it's going to turn us upside down with our busing. High school kids, if they want jobs after school, it's going to negatively impact that. It's going to impact families if they need the high school kids to watch the little siblings, the younger siblings. And it also is, and probably be the greatest factor, they may not know it, it's going to upset their athletic schedule, because other teams aren't going to want to change their schedules to meet what they do. And I think I may have told the board this. In Rhode Island, we had a district do it. It was like a Bedford type district. They did away with it after a year for those 3 reasons. Athletics was the biggest driver, because, my goodness, that literally drives the bus. But those other 2 issues were important, and they did away with it. So I don't know how it's going to turn out for them, but I did express our concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Barrick. One question I had about the bus routes, being rather familiar with the routes last year, there's a lot more stops this year, and I know that some were added for safety purposes. I know they have a policy that says, for instance, K through 2 kids shouldn't travel more than half a mile to a stop. Half a mile is a lot for K to 2, so it should be smaller. But it seems like we had a bunch of stops. I'm curious if
Yes,
the pendulum is flowing back. Your
we're
thoughts?
trying.
Okay.
Yeah, we see the same thing.
Okay.
And we've pushed them to create more what I call neighborhood stops, like stop at an intersection where 2 roads go, where before a lot of the routes were what Wayne said was the stop. Like originally on my road where I live, I think they had 10 stops. I was like, what are you talking about? We only have 2. And that's for the young ones, not middle school. So we changed, so those things that we saw that stood out to us, we changed right away. But there's still, they had buses going in the wrong direction, or they'll go by one area to go to area A and then come back to an area they passed to get to area A. It's just, it doesn't, there shouldn't be. Right. 1 in 4, I think.
On that note, though, and one of my thoughts was, now that we're out of the stuff that has happened over the last couple of years and we're back to normal, principals, are we seeing increase back to bus usage? Is that some of this too? Are we back to where we were Yeah, that's what I figured, because we used to be a district that was almost 95% bus, because we don't really have a walking population. So when my kids were little, I know like everyone took the bus, and then parent pickup became a thing. And I think some of this that's driving, some of the complication is that we're going back to the busing district we once were. Okay.
And last year, we were running essentially 7 buses, double runs. This year, we have 14 buses. They're doing single runs, and some are struggling. Others aren't. Others are hitting their marks, but we got way too many that aren't.
Thank you, Ms. Godbout. Other questions? Moving on to the agenda reports, we have a very robust packet of administrative reports. Any questions for the administration?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sullivan, go ahead.
just a couple of questions. Thank you again. Great reports. Amazing. We're only 3 weeks into the school and they're full out with activities and reporting. Question, and I think the board is certainly glad that we looked at the appropriate amount of testing that we've done with eliminating any NEWA. And I first thought that was going to be completely removed, but just a clarification, and this is for the director of curriculum, whoever. It says the widespread use of NEW has been removed, but retains a few licenses. And it does say in the second sentence, using NEW will need principal's approval as well as parental consent. Can
That's
someone
used-
just explain why?
It's used for special ed testing.
Okay,
It's another benchmark that we can use.
all right.
That's all. But it's not going to be widespread, like, we're not giving it to every child like we did in previous.
So we'll still use it because of the
It'll be
licenses, but
very,
it's, okay.
very selective.
All right, okay. Thank you for that clarification. Couple other questions. I think you answered this last time with your proposal for a additional fifth grade teacher. Third grade, because we have 7 and 6. So I didn't want to ask that. Just a question for Mr. Loy or whoever under the Underhill School. I see you note that 21 students participated in the Ready for Success program. It may be a little early. And that's for the new first grade kids coming in?
Kindergarten.
Incoming kindergartens, okay.
Incoming
All right.
kindergarten, for children who may not have had preschool experience, or kids who may be
Okay.
a little on the anxious side. Those children, those families signed up for the program, and we had pretty good participation, good attendance, and the kids definitely were better prepared, come first day of school. So
And thank you, Ed. And that was the question of those 21 out of the 131, according to the numbers, which is what, 20%.
they're very comfortable.
Would you encourage? Would you want to encourage other new incoming kindergarten parents to participate? That if those 21 kids, students seem to be better than the other 90 that didn't. I'm just saying, is there a big difference between the 21?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
Because when I opened the registration period for that program, we have limited number of spots, because we have one staff member running it for a 2-week session, and we do have a few, quite a few families that are interested, and we always tend to seem to fill all the seats, and almost everyone, almost all of them are included in the program. So we could expand it, but I don't know if we would have enough attendees.
All right. Thank you for that. I was just wondering how that worked compared to those who didn't. Two questions for Collie, Mr. Chairman. I'm intrigued by portrait of a Collie learner. What are the 5 components of a Collie learner? Is that something new? I haven't seen.
So the staff over the past year and a half, have worked to do, and a lot of high schools have this in similarity too, but a Colley of a Portrait of a Learner. We want students to leave Colley with these skills, working toward them, so they're successful in college, careers, high school, and certainly beyond. Those 5 qualities are responsibility, problem solving, communication, collaboration, and perseverance. So this was really the unveiling of that as a school-wide. We did a little bit last March, but now we have a real focus on each of these and have themes for kind of each quarter. And Jeff Hamilton and Karen Rogers and Captain Hawkins did a great job at the assembly, really getting the kids excited. And it was great to get the kids back together so quickly on an assembly, I think on the 4th day of school. This was a great kickoff.
Okay, I was just wondering, and I had to read it twice, the second paragraph under that section. I had to figure out who was Captain Hawkins. I didn't know who that was at first, and I realized that's the name of the mascot.
That was the mascot. The mascot also had a school picture taken on Monday and will be in the Colley yearbook this year too.
I was thinking that was there a police officer here? I wasn't
No.
sure. And just 2 more if I could, or maybe 3. Under student services, it's good to see, or maybe not, I don't know if it's good, federal funding for Title I and IDA have gone up over the last 2 years. Is that a good thing?
No.
No, okay,
Because it's reflective on your student, number of students with special needs.
okay,
So the more students you have, and you report it, the feds usually will send you additional dollars.
okay.
It's
All
a
right.
good thing to get the money, but it means those numbers are increasing.
And I know we're taking steps to try to
Doing our best.
reduce that number of those who need additional attention. And just one more, I see throughout the reports, mention of the UFLI Institute, and I know getting back to phonics, which we used to do, and then we didn't. Why did we pick that particular service? And of course, I think phonics is good. I was just wondering why UFLI was the one to choose.
It is based on the current science of reading, which is, teaching kids foundational skills. It is direct. It's like a direct, systematic, explicit phonics program. There's a lot of research behind making sure students are taught the sounds and the letters first before you are working directly on fluency. So this particular program was chosen because there's research that backs it up, and there's a lot of data that shows that the students are making progress with it.
All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you for your answers.
Other questions? Ms. Baker?
I wanted to ask Megan about the vending machine. They look pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm going to express my concern about the low readers. Low readers will go into a box, reading at a first grade level, and pick the call of the wild. And what I want to make sure is that the lower end, because this will profit lots of highly motivated kids, but I'm really worried about the low readers because they're the ones that aren't motivated and don't know how to pick out appropriate reading. So I'll let you comment.
Sonia's been doing the majority of our book vending machine program, so I can tell she's wanting to respond.
Go for it.
Actually, thank you. Justine and met with a Scholastic vendor, and that was one of the questions we had, was making sure all the vending machines had a wide variety of reading levels and a wide variety of genres, and just different types of books, from picture books to chapter books to everything in between. So
And will their classroom teachers help guide them through the use of vending machines?
Yeah,
And
so-
make sure that they're earning the tokens they need to earn, because more often than not, those are the kids who are not earning.
I know. So all the expectation is that students will earn a token with good reading behaviors. A good reading behavior could be, I you got caught reading a book, or answer me a question about what you're reading. It could even be a couple of sentences. So the goal is that each student will earn at least 1 to 2 tokens a year, and the teachers will keep track of that on, on their end. So all students will definitely be earning at least 1 book, hopefully 2 by the end of the year, because we do have enough for that.
A token gets you a book. It's not like you have to save a bunch of tokens in order to pay
No,
for a
no,
book.
no, but I just think they need monitoring.
Oh, yeah,
You can't let them be independent at that low level.
right.
Can I add on to that as well? So the book vending machines are certainly something that is very motivating for the kids. It's, exciting, all of that. It would be a great mechanism for giving them something to work towards, but it will not replace. The kids will be coming to the library. They have choices of all the books that are in the library and staff members that will help them find a book that's appealing to them, but also at a good reading level as well.
Ms. Godbout, you had a question?
Awesome reports, super exciting. The gym floor at Underhill looks phenomenal. I'm really excited to see Megan McLean, all the work you're doing around getting the transparency out of the curriculum to the families. I love those curriculum nights. It's a great add-on because curriculum has drastically changed since we went to school. So it's nice to know what the kids are talking about when they come home. We did a lot of initiatives, it looks like, and a lot of rollouts this year. So as an educator, my question is, are we supporting these? What are our PDs around these? I know my district, we went to UFly too, and all we got was the manual and said, go use it. So I really hope we're not doing that to our teachers because that's a lot to tackle when you already have a reading program. So what are we doing to balance it out? How are we breaking it out for them? Beginning of the year is stressful enough, and then to have a bunch of initiatives on top of it, I just want to make sure we're being mindful. I'm sure you are, but can you just share like how we're going about that?
So I'll have Sonia and Meg share in a minute, but we are sending a survey out after the next PD day, which is September 29th. And it's asking, how did the start of the year go for you? What was helpful? What wasn't helpful? What were the pieces that were missing? And then going forward, what would you benefit from or be interested in for professional development in the future? So we do have a survey that's going out to kind of check in on teachers. But I know Meg and Sonia also at PLTs have been working with teachers every week, so they'll speak to that.
As far as the UFly is concerned, at the last year, at the end of the year PD days, teachers got a half-day training. We watched the implementation videos. They were given the manual over the summer. I actually just offered 2 afternoons this month for teachers to come in, and we were talking about the progress monitoring pieces that go with that. So the initiative for UFly is, my goal for that was to have all the materials, made for them and to have an alignment guide, completed by September. And that was completed. We had many teachers working this summer on materials, which was great. Anything from, the little word work mats to some whiteboards, and even some word cards. So, it was a lot, but that was, the goal is to kind of say, here are all your materials. We did the training. We're going to be offering more training. And at our PLTs, we're constantly checking in on them. And, whenever a teacher has, a challenge or a concern, that I get an email right away, and usually I'm there either that day or the next day.
Baker. Oh, sorry.
I think Meg is going to add on.
Oh, sorry. The same thing, similar. In regards to the universal number sense screener, I met with all of the Underhill teachers, one-on-one or in small groups, to kind of go over the screener. I handed them all their materials ready to go. And Jen Jantosh, the Title I math tutor, supported the teachers because it was their first time. She did a bunch from each class just to kind of get them going, so the classroom teachers had less to do. During PLT, we've also kind of gone over it in regards to Zern K-2. I've actually been in a bunch of first grade classrooms this week, helping those teachers get in and get familiar with Zern. So we've been in and about those classrooms to help out the teachers.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Baker.
I have asked Megan to include on her survey
how the teachers are feeling about their workload. When I went through the packet for this meeting, I was just overwhelmed with how many new initiatives there are, and I can't really tell if they all fall on one end or the other. But I would like to have on the survey a question about whether the teachers are feeling overwhelmed. You know, do I feel overwhelmed? Never, sometimes, very often, or always. And I'd love to see a comment section under that. So thank you.
Over the summer, when I met with Meg, Sonia, and Megan, and they presented what the plan was, I had the same thoughts, that it's a lot, and that we have to have, and they've already mentioned it, continual check-ins, either with a survey, as Lynn just mentioned, or through the team meetings or the PLCs, and get the feedback, because one of my goals that I've expressed to the whole team, just not the three of them, is that we need to improve communication with our teachers regarding everything, but especially curriculum, because that's what we're here for. And if we find ourselves, as we talked about it over the summer, if we find that we're going too fast or we're rolling out too much, we will have to calibrate, we'll have to throttle back and determine what we want to, maybe not everything gets, there's nothing wrong with having an ambitious goal, but sometimes you also have to be willing, especially in our business profession, to modify it as you go. We know where we want to go, and sometimes you have to take a detour maybe to get there, but we're very conscious of that. So just wanted to let you know that we thought the same thing.
Just one more question before we move on, if no one else has comments, but I was just wondering where we are with staffing now that we're almost, we're in a couple of weeks. I noticed that head of student services said we had some holes. I'm just wondering, how do we feel? What are our big ones that we really need?
We have, with special ed, from talking with Chris, we're very aggressive in finding people, but people quit as soon as, sometimes before we even get them in the classroom, they decide we're not coming to work for you. They don't really give us a reason. They say, well, I don't want to do the job, or they're on the job for a few days and they just quit. So the paras, it's better than it was last year, but it's still an issue. We're still struggling, even with that increase in salary, to find people to fill those roles, especially. I know Dean has vacancies, custodians in his area. But as far as teaching goes, I think we're pretty staffed, right? Principals, so.
From the school psychologist this year?
What's that? Okay, special ed teacher.
We need a school psychologist on staff this year?
No, it's contracted. And they do, I think we have two.
And then
They do the three schools. Yeah.
Okay.
And then food services.
Food service, yep. Like it's the same, people, a lot of people stay, but others just, it's a buyer's market. I mean, that hasn't changed. Folks just are able to, which is good for them. They can go find a better job they believe they can get secure. We've done everything we can as far as salaries go to make it competitive. We'll never, we talked about this before, for example, food service, Wendy's is $20 an hour for part-time work. We can't move fast enough, as we talked about, to keep up with that. We do our best to stay competitive with our other neighboring districts, but we can't move fast enough. We don't have those mechanisms in place to just change on the fly like they have. So we're doing our best, but it's still a challenge.
Ms. Tremblay, go ahead.
So I'm looking at Ms. Thane's report. I'm so thrilled about all of the books that are being made available to the kids, because we all know that a huge part of supporting especially early literacy, although it's important for older kids too, is just giving them access to books. So that's wonderful. With the board's permission, I'd like to write thank you notes. We received donations from the Hooks at Kiwanis Club of books for all of our school libraries, which is wonderful. I'd also like to write a thank you note to Mrs. Liadis, who helped out registering families for new library cards. Hooks at Library, I believe they were Library of the Year a couple years ago. I believe they are. Yeah, they are wonderful. They have a wonderful children's section. And then a thank you card to Mrs. Musso for helping out while Mrs. Malone is out on leave, because it's just vital to support literacy in the town.
Appreciate that, Ms. Tremblay. Thank you. I think that's, yeah, board consensus in that, yes. And you're doing it anyway, so there's that. Ms. Baker, yes, go ahead.
Quick one on Christine's report. It says school psychologist contracting 5 days per week for each building. I don't understand how you can contract for 5 days a week for each building. I don't understand it.
We pay an outside agency to provide psychology testing services for our students. And they bounce to cover the 3 schools.
2 of them cover 3 schools.
And they're not, and school psychologists, the title, a lot of folks think, well, psychologists, well, they're doing a lot of, counseling. It's all testing for special ed or some sort of needs assessment.
Mr. Hyde?
Just to, if you could clarify that just a little bit, that doesn't necessarily that means that there's someone at every school every day, right? It's just as needed.
Right, because we'd only have 2 people, but they do try to go to all 3 schools. The 2 of them try to cover them each day.
As needed.
As
I
needed.
believe that that's those 5 days, like I think you're asking, are there some weeks that there's only 3 days a week that they're there? Yeah. I think they're pretty well straight out, the 2 of them doing testing, like. So Collie has a psychologist on Monday and Friday, and a different one on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
There's a microphone over there somewhere. I just want to make sure that gets passed around.
Collie has a school psychologist on Monday and Friday, and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. 2 different people.
Underhill School for this year, this is new. We do have a school psychologist 5 days a week at Underhill School, performing, special ed testing, but also providing, therapy types of services, for students with significant needs. So that is new this year.
Appreciate those updates. Thank you. Again, I think it's a reports, a very robust bunch. Moving on the agenda, board chair report. So school board was at Old Home Day this weekend, which, as most of you know, got rescheduled due to the inclement weather. On each side of the table here are some of the poster boards we put together. We took advantage of the time and the excellent placement next to the face painting booth, where we had a lot of traffic. I think we had good visitation just because of that fact, but we talked about some of our facilities needs, some just amazing activities all 3 schools have done this year, a little information about the board, some demographic information, and I appreciate so many folks working on those poster boards and helping set up, post the day, and take it down. We had some help from the scouting group from taking down the tent, and it was a fun day. Just comments from the board that were there, if any.
Did the wind die down?
Wind died down. Ms. Godbout.
Real quick, so we can keep things moving, but I do just want to say thank you for the families who, approached us and had some nice conversation. We were able to clarify some high school talk to help Mr. Benson out later in life. Some people that kept saying, my kid's not there yet, and they already, had some ideas formed in their heads, and we were able to, clarify, because I don't think they had all the information, and really get out the needs that we haven't done some big infrastructure stuff since Collie was opened. That was 20 years ago. So that our, getting our voters kind of prepared for some of the things that will be coming forward. And we also tried to really hype up all the good things that were happening in the district. And I have to say, most people didn't really want to talk to us because they're like, oh yeah, no, in a good way. And the fact that they were like, oh yeah, there's the schools. We love them. Like that was what we got. We love them. So you should hear that too. Like everyone's very happy in a lot of ways. And I don't think we spend enough time focusing sometimes on how well we're doing. So you guys, I want to make sure you guys heard that. There was just a lot of really positive things. People didn't really have anything negative to say about the hooks at schools that day.
Thank you for that summary. And I'll just mention, last year there were tons of questions about high school, not as many this year. It was just a very different feeling, but it's very, very positive. I did want to point out that the Hooksett annual report is published and schools have a big chunk at the back, and appreciate everyone who contributed that body of work summarizing last school year. It was very rewarding to read and see how much the district accomplished. I'll note briefly at our board meeting in June, we had established some goals for 2023-24. Those are actually separate agenda items under old business, so we'll talk about those in more detail then. So thank you for that. Quick chance to go around the room for standing committee updates. Some folks got together a few weeks ago to talk about communications and planning for Old Home Day and such. Ms. Tremble, you've got something coming up, I think, for building committee at Pinkerton, possibly? I could be wrong.
It's next month.
Not that I know of.
Next month. Okay.
Is it next month?
We have.
I will wait for that email.
Okay, we have a little bit of information about Pinkerton Start Time Committee. Actually, we'll talk more about that a little later. And I think committees are going to really fold into the work that we have for the board board goals. Go ahead.
I do get regular. Pinkerton has been pretty good about sending really monthly emails,
Okay.
just updating on the building project, and it's going as planned.
Great.
They're moving along. So.
Thank you. Any other committee updates? Next on the agenda, we actually have a bonus here. So it's Pinkerton Academy update. I'd first like to invite Trustee Elise Harnish up to the front, and my microphone floating around somewhere. If we could get that there, that would be great. Ms. Harnish is from Hooksett. She volunteers with PTA in Hooksett. She's one of the Board of Trustee members at Pinkerton. So she was appointed about a year ago now. And occasionally we have our Pinkerton folks come in for just a little bit of an update. So it's good to have you here. And is the microphone green?
Can you hear me now? Okay. So yes, we are in full swing back in school. And this is our MAC plaque week, our week with Londonderry, ending with homecoming this weekend and a lot of games. The academic data from the prior school year is currently being compiled. That'll be shared with each town and overall at the Fall Sending Towns meeting. And the New England Association Secondary Schools and Colleges, which is abbreviated NEASC, if you see it, it reviewed our 2-year progress reports that were submitted last spring. And they had the following. They were accepted without reservation. They commended Pinkerton Academy for its commitment to strengthening diversity, equity, and inclusion, communication, and health and safety. The involvement throughout the process of students with a wide variety of faculty and staff left a very positive impression. The work that is being done with new hires, positions, and meeting the evolving need of our students led one commissioner to state, "Everything looks to be in good order. Pinkerton serves an essential function for the surrounding community and is doing very well." So that was nice to hear with all the work we put into that. Regarding staffing, we were able to reduce 4 positions while adding 1 in the current fiscal year. With the revamping of positions through retirements and departures, that allowed us to add a data information manager as well as 2 school marshals, which brings us to a total of 3 school marshals that are on campus. School safety is always a top priority, but we've had some initiatives this year, and those were all mentioned in the school safety letter that was sent to all Pinkerton parents that I'm happy to share with Wayne after the meeting if he wants to share that as well. So an example of a few are enhanced security measures. We implemented a new visitor management system. All visitors must present their government-issued photo ID. They're processed through the Raptor visitor management system. And like I said, we added 2 new school marshals, which means we have a total of 3 on campus. And I will say they are phenomenal. We are really lucky to have them. They're great individuals. They take their jobs very seriously. And in that, they have us doing a lot of emergency preparedness. So the faculty and staff, they undergo regular trainings to be able to respond effectively regardless of the situation. They do practice drills, tabletop exercises with the entire student body to ensure that should something arise, we can handle it in any situation. We collaborate very well with the Derry Police Department and the Fire Department to ensure that we have a rapid and coordinated response if we do have emergencies. They're regularly consulted, and that enables us to enhance our ability to address any safety concerns, which is great. We're lucky to have them, and we'll continue to have 2 school resource officers on campus as well. So in regards to safety, we're putting a lot of time and energy and focus in that, and we'll continue. So next, energy efficiency, we're all focused on, especially with our rising energy costs. So we are continuing to audit all aspects throughout the campus. We're adding solar panels to the Shepherd roof, which is great. LED lights have been installed in the EK Science, Spalding Arts and Humanities, and low buildings. And we've been able to qualify for incentives through Eversource New Hampshire Saves program and the SMART project funding for no out-of-pocket costs, while we're realizing annual savings of approximately 455,000 kilowatt hours. In regards to financials, we are wrapping up the financial reports. Those will be shared by September 30th. I don't have further information, except I do know that districts will be receiving a small refund this year. The 2024-25 budget is in process. We expect October 1st for numbers from the sending towns to be received, because we do need that information. And November 1st is the date that we expect to get the number of Hooksett students. And we will approve the budget prior to Thanksgiving, and then we'll share it with the sending towns at that time. The head of school, Dr. Tim Powers, has been updating the community on the building project. It's going really well. We're so excited to have a dedicated, versatile space for social studies and the special ed students. And if you're looking for more information on how that project is going, you can see it at our website, pinkertonacademy.org. It's regularly updated, and you can also follow us on social media. I primarily do Facebook and Instagram, and we've drastically increased our social media presence so that people can continue to have a great understanding of what's going on with our programs. And please do follow it. It'll give you a much better understanding of what's going on at Pinkerton every day. We were really lucky to have Mike Perez start as the new associate head of school. He started on July 1st. He is what a fantastic human being. We're so happy to have him. He's already making a great impact on the students and our programs, and you'll see him a lot on social media as well. He sends out weekly updates, so if you're a Pinkerton parent, you're already seeing him integrated into everything that we do. Also, you can view those on our website as well. And that's it for me. Do we have any questions?
Ms. Harders, thank you. Anything from the board? That was very robust. Thank you. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then also tonight from Pinkerton, we were not expecting our new student liaison here, but Alyssa Stephenson is with us, and we're excited to get the student perspective of PA. So welcome tonight.
Hi.
And if that is green, you're good to go.
Okay. I'm Alyssa Stevenson. I'm a junior at Pinkerton, obviously, and I'm kind of just here to give the student side of what it is like to be at Pinkerton. So, the first thing I want to talk about is MacPlac weekend. That's this weekend. Obviously, we go against Londonderry, our biggest rivals, and we have different sports games going on this week, and then the big football game on Friday night. We also have Spirit Week going on this week. Today was Soccer Mom versus Girl Dad. Tomorrow is Barbie versus Ken. Thursday is surfers versus bikers, and then Friday is our red and white day. So that's exciting. Definitely a lot of school spirit going on. Homecoming is also this Saturday coming up. Tickets were sold for $20 by the student council, and there was a limited amount, so not everybody was able to get one, but it'll definitely be a fun night. Senior corn roast was scheduled for this past Saturday, I believe, but because of the inclement weather, it is going to be rescheduled for September 30th. So that's basically just a time for the seniors to get together, do some fall activities before they graduate with their class, things like that. As you may know, we do have a National Honor Society and a Science Honor Society and Math Honor Society, and now opening is going to be the English Honor Society for kids who are interested in reading, writing, and leading. So they can apply for that, give it to the teacher that's the head of that, and they will be notified if they are accepted into the English Honor Society on October 29th. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was the club fair that happened today. During all lunches, students could go, especially freshmen, sophomores who aren't really involved at Pinkerton just yet, are able to go and kind of scope out the different clubs and activities they can join and decide how they want to be involved at Pinkerton as their time goes on as being a student there. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Appreciate that update. Thank you. I'm curious what club you're in.
I am in the Academy Mentor Program. I'm in HOSA, which is the Health Occupation Students Association, which is basically a medical club for students. We raise money for the Be the Match fundraiser, which is bone marrow transplants. We raise money for breast cancer awareness through walks. And we also go to conferences and compete with different healthcare aspects, and eventually move from the local level to the state level and to the national level. So I'm in that. I'm in the prom committee, and I believe that's it for me this year.
That's it.
Oh, and then I also am in the Just Like Us Club, which is students who work with those who are developmentally disabled and special education children to help integrate them into the social aspects of Pinkerton Academy, because it can be hard. So
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll look forward to seeing you at our meetings going forward.
Yes, I will be
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Mr. Rarick, the next agenda item, if you'd like to introduce that.
Yes, this is our long-awaited, much anticipated. It's our Mike Davies is back. He is going to be breaking down for us. He did an energy audit for us. He went to all three of our schools, and he's just going to highlight what he and his team found and some of the costs associated with doing that work. I know Mike will speak. I know he's talked about it briefly, but I have asked him to just kind of go over the different way school boards have funded these types of projects, since they're so large in dollar amounts, usually in the millions of dollars. And then when Mike's done, if you have any questions about anything that he's put up there, please feel free to ask him. Tonight is informational for you. So in October, when we have our budget workshop, and then when we approve our initial budget to the budget committee, you don't have to decide on that warrant article, but this information that Mike's going to present us, the board's going to have to decide how they would like to proceed. I think there's three avenues. One, a warrant for the whole thing, warrant for partial amount, or three, no warrant. So that's getting ahead, so I'll turn it over to Mike and let him proceed with his presentation.
Again, Mike Davey with Energy Efficient Investments. And in addition to looking at this summer, in addition to looking at all three schools to help develop a comprehensive energy audit and needs assessment, we also added a new ventilation system with with dehumidification that does about half of the Underhill Elementary School. And that is mostly complete. We'll do the gymnasium over Thanksgiving break, but that work went off as scheduled this summer. This is a list of the items that we looked at, and I am having a hard time reading it from here, so I'm going to grab my notes on it.
Numbers are a little small, you know. They look much better on my computer than the big numbers are a little small on the big screen.
I can.
Big numbers always look.
Yeah, I have a hard copy.
Regardless of.
This is a preliminary version of it, but I apologize. This looked much clearer when I had it on a smaller screen. So this is on, I think, the projector. Is it the projector? Yeah. Thanks. So I'm just going to kind of go through it in high level. It's broken out by school, and then I'll give a high level overview of what it is, and then more detail on the next slides. At Cawley, replacing the remaining ventilation units is item 1A, which is about $3 million. Installing 2 new high efficiency boilers. 650, the roofs, 1.7, and that's the entire roof system. The HVAC controls is item number 4. The electrical transformers is number 5. Roof wall joint insulation, which is spray foam insulation around the top core of the perimeter, is number 6. Number 7 is kitchen hood exhaust fan upgrade. At Underhill, we also looked at the ventilation, high efficiency boilers, controls upgrades. The windows at Underhill were candidate for potential replacement. Upgrading the fire alarm system at Underhill, a new hot water heater there. Again, spray foam insulation and kitchen hood exhaust. And then at Memorial, we also looked at replacing the remaining ventilation units. New boilers, roofs. Memorial actually requires some structural improvements. So the code changed 2 years ago that when you do a comprehensive roof assessment, you actually need to do a comprehensive structural assessment. We did that for both Cawley and Memorial. Cawley had no structural issues, which you would expect of a building here. Memorial, it has 2 issues. It has a snow load issue, and I have a graph that shows where those are, that would be a problem with a huge amount of heavy wet snow around the gymnasium, would create potentially a problem. And then there's also a seismic problem at the outside perimeter walls. When that school was designed, they didn't use the current seismic codes to deal with earthquakes. And in Canada in 2012, there was a couple school collapses from heavy wet snow. When they did that, when they updated the New Hampshire building code, they increased what we need to design schools for. So neither of these were issues like, oh, they were designed wrong at the time. Both of these are the building community learned more since this school was built. And what the code says is if you replace the entire roof, you have to do this. So unlike every other item on here is essentially piecemeal. You could just do that one thing. If you do the roof, you have to do the structure unless you seek some type of building code variance. Then we have controls, transformers, fire alarm, weatherization, kitchen exhaust hood. And then I broke it out by school, and I'm going to go through more detail on each one, but essentially it's 5.8 at Cawley, 2.8 at Underhill, 6.4 at Memorial, and a total district need of 15 million. If you were to do that with a lease, the current rates, if you were to do it today, for a 20-year lease would be about 5.5%. and the annual payment would be approximately 1.2 million. If you were to do it with a 15-year term, the interest rate drops down to 5%, and the payment jumps up to 1.4. The one thing I think most of the board is aware, but not everyone in the public. The district made a heavy investment in these buildings from the late 90s to early 2000s, which was good. The downside is the expected life of commercial roofs is about 20 years. The expected life of boilers is 20 years. The expected life of ventilation systems is 20 years. That being said, they're being well maintained. There's not catastrophic failure of any of these items. But there is this 15 million of need coming up that definitely needs to be done. Certainly in the next 10 years, probably should be done in the next 3 to 5. And whether it's done, with a lease, and this project, by the way, is not something, if passed by the voters, that would be all done in one summer. This would be a multi-year construction project if you decided to bring the entire thing forward. At least 2 years, probably closer to 3, if you were to do this as one big project. And so I have more details on all of this later. The next slide. So hopefully you can read the rest of these, so you don't have to follow around with the paper copy. These are the ventilation upgrades. You have some pictures of the current units at Underhill and at Cawley that show a couple things that we don't love. The hot water pipe in some of these units actually was run outside the assembly. So in general, we don't like to have hot water pipes on the roof, even though they're very well insulated. That's not a preferred design. And then you can just see there's some weathering and aging on 20-year-old equipment. At Underhill, we have replaced several of the units this summer. At Cawley, we've done your highest need units, which was your upper floor dehumidification. On those 90-degree days, we checked to see how Cawley was performing, and those spaces were substantially cooler than the rest of the buildings. We were seeing like 74 degrees on those 90-degree early August days. I assume Underhill had the same result. Yes, it did. Okay. If the answer was no, you had to say yes and no, but yeah. And so that does mean that a chunk of Underhill is done and the top floor of Cawley, but the rest of your district doesn't have the dehumidification. We're seeing that become more and more of a need as the schools are used more, as it maybe is getting a little hotter. We're seeing more and more districts just standardize on dehumidification. When I gave the ventilation numbers on the previous slide, that is dehumidification in the entire school and full AC in the offices. So that if you elected those line items, it would be dehumidification everywhere, including cafeterias, gymnasiums, etc. Yep.
Can I actually, Mr. Benson, that week that we had between 95-ish degrees, how was the temperature upstairs with all the students and staff in? Was it noticeably better with, I know it was warm, but was it noticeably better with the
Warm to hot?
We were playing hotter downstairs. Mr. Hyde, take the edge off.
For the numbers that we see at all the schools, ventilation and such, ventilation specifically, do those numbers reflect the total cost, or is that beyond what we've already done?
That any unit that were already done were taken out. So that's the remainder of the school.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Boilers, again, your boilers are in general about 20 to 21 years old. They're about 80% efficient. The new boilers that are available on the market are 96% efficient. So it's with that one, it's a straight line 16% savings in your gas usage. So there's significant energy savings with that project. We also put variable speed drives on the pumps, which will improve the water flow through the building and additional energy savings as part of that budget. For the roofs, we are recommending roofs at 2 of the schools. Underhill was replaced in 2020, but Memorial and Colley are again 20 years old, and we're recommending replacing them with R30 insulation, which is the new code. And they're kind of these flat EPDM black rubber roofs. The control system, for the most part, was installed in 2003, and that system is functioning fairly well. But again, it's an electronic system that was installed in 2003, and if you think of the computers that you used in 2003, there's a significant improvement in the current technology over what you have. You also have several different brands of control systems. So there's KMC, there's Reliable, Barbara Coleman, Allerton, and I think there's some Schneider. And so in the controls number, it would include standardizing to a single platform. There's a handful of transformers around the building. I believe there's 5 at Memorial, 6 at Colley. Basically, at those 2 schools, the power comes into the building at 480 volts, and then it's transformed down to plug loads so you can plug in, but the ventilation units are powered at 480 volt. Those transformers that were available when they were put in 2000 were about 95% efficient, but that means that 5% of all power going to them is lost in just wasted energy, and those rooms are hot. The new high efficiency transformers are 99.8 efficient. And with the very high electrical rates in New Hampshire, these things pay for themselves in about 9 years. So, and they last about 40. So it's a good return on investment. We talked about building weatherization. What we're talking about there are 2 things. One is exterior door sweeps, and if you can see daylight through it, that means outdoor air is getting in. And then in several of the schools, if you pop the ceiling tiles, I used to be in construction, and basically you have one contractor, a mason, who's responsible for the wall, and then you have a roofer who's responsible for the roof insulation. That gap where they miss is almost poorly insulated in buildings of this era. So the spray foam insulation is primarily this top area where this beam is, putting a coat of spray foam in that area to reduce that infiltration. And that's something that usually has about a 6-year payback. And let's see. At one of the schools, we looked at which was Underhill, looking at window replacements. We saw a significant amount of seal failures, where you can see that you can see the condensation between the 2 panes. Do people have a hard time opening the windows? Yes. Yep. So we did give an option to replace the windows at Underhill. And then Memorial, these are the 2 areas. So the red area are the areas that are, according to our structural engineer, who, by the way, is a Hooksett resident. So we did use a local resident to do all the structural reviews on this building. The red boxes are areas that have structural issues, where if you have significant snow under a certain load, they will actually fail on design. So that area is the biggest. The yellow area has a lateral issue where the walls aren't sufficiently tied to the structure, so that if during an earthquake, the walls will move separately from the roof and the walls will collapse in an earthquake. Again, are these giant risks? Probably not, but they are something that you have to bring it up to code when you do the roof project. Fire alarm systems. The fire alarm systems here at 2 of the schools are a company called Simplex. Simplex has been known to be somewhat hard to get service and expensive, and most of the districts that we've been dealing with are switching to, and like for Manchester, for example, switched 100% to an open source system that any electrician can work on. The simplex system is proprietary. So as an option, when we do these new ventilation systems, we do have to tie them into the fire alarm because the fire department wants during a fire to stop moving air around so that you're not pumping smoke back into the building. And so, long story short, we have the option to replace the fire alarm systems at Memorial and Underhill as part of the project. It's not a code requirement, it's an option.
Mike is understanding. Difficult.
Yes. Yes, I am at a public meeting, but yes, they are difficult to deal with. And then lastly, there's an opportunity to put VFD exhaust drives on the kitchen hood. Right now, if you turn the kitchen hood fan on, it just runs, and it's like a 5 horsepower motor that's moving 2,000 CFM of air out of the kitchens. When you don't have these intense, cooking needs typically. So what this would do is a variable speed motor that will just monitor the temperature in the hood itself and ramp the exhaust fans up and down based on demand. Financing options for the project. Basically, there's 3 major ways to do a project like this. The first is a lease purchase agreement. The second is a bond, and the third would be operations in the budget. And I think for the most part, with the exception of the memorial roof, these projects can be viewed somewhat as standalone. So you could budget these over a period of time if you had wanted to. The most common thing to do is a lease purchase agreement with a separate warrant article. I believe that's what Candia did, and it did pass with pretty solid support. And that project was completed 2 years ago. They also did the full dehumidification throughout their school and have had good results with that. And we did that in Hennecker 2 years ago as well. 4 years ago. I'm dating myself. Leasing, right now the rates are in the 5% to 5.25%, and there's some benefits of the lease. One, it can be paid off early at any time. So if you have a big surplus one year, you can pay it off ahead of time. You can also refinance it at any time. So right now, if interest rates are 5, if in a couple of years they drop down to 2, you can refinance that note for the current rate. So Timberlane passed a major lease project, and that was the main reason they chose to do a lease. In New Hampshire, it just requires a 50% plus 1 approval, same as the budget. A bond, which is what Manchester does, that requires either a 2/3 or 60%, depending on whether you're SB2 or town meeting, I think. But so I don't know. Are we town meeting or SB2? SB2. I think it's 60%, but I could look that up. So that requires a higher threshold with the bond. With the bond, it is considered debt on the district. A lease is considered an operating expense. So a bond, districts only have so much bonding capacity. And so if you were going to do a massive project, you only have so much that the bond that you're allowed to do, where leases, because you can pay them off early and because they have an escape clause, they're not considered debt in the same way that a bond is. And a bond is much harder to refinance. Bond rates right now are a bit lower than lease rates. We're seeing them in the 4% range right this minute. But what happens is typically in March, the New Hampshire Bond Bank will assemble all the bonds that pass, and then they'll go out and put it out to the market. And you generally don't know what rate you're going to get until August. And because there's that bridge period between when you get your bond from New Hampshire Bond Bank and when you start your project in June, you have to do generally a bridge loan, which is a 1-year loan for the construction in between that bond period. And the last one, and this is what we've been doing in Keene. Keene puts 1.7 to 2 million a year. They looked at the first 2 options, and they got a school board together and said, rather than doing a bond line, we're going to put 1.7 in the budget, and we're just going to slowly chip away at the projects. And they have a 10-year plan that'll probably become a 15-year plan, because although I like the benefit of Keene is they're not paying interest, the downside is construction inflation has hit them. So now we're able to do less and less every year. To give you an idea of construction inflation, my first construction project, I worked on Foxborough Stadium when I was in college. We built the whole stadium for $375 million, and they just did a renovation, which adding some seats for $250 million. So like probably a third of the work that we did was about 2/3 of the cost of what that project was. So there's been a huge amount of inflation since when this school was built. I think that is a high-level summary of where we were at for your budgeting. There are energy savings that go with this. I will say those get, so if you were to not do the ventilation with dehumidification, there's a substantial amount of energy savings. But when you add the dehumidification, that cancels out a lot of the energy savings, because to dehumidify that air, it's a substantial amount of energy used to do it. And so what we've found for the most part is we're going to save money with the transformers, the boilers, the controls. That is going to get somewhat eaten up by doing the dehumidification throughout the school for the better comfort and air quality.
Board, any questions from students? Appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Mike, can you send us, or send Dean can you send Dean what the savings would be if we went with the dehumidification units versus not?
Yes. It would all, not only would there'd be operational savings, there would also be cost savings on the equipment. The equipment is significantly cheaper. Yeah.
Cheaper to not dehumidify.
Correct.
Yeah. If we could have that price too, like with and without, kind of.
Yeah, I will say too, what I can send you to show you the impact, it would be pretty easy to do this. We could show you the data of what the portions of Underhill had and Colley that had the dehumidification on those just a couple weeks ago, and compare it to Memorial. So, because Dean and I actually did that live, and it was probably.
And I can tell you, Ben can say this too. When you walk into the new wing,
you think there's air conditioning?
Ventilation wing.
Yeah.
In Underhill, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
And to address Colley here, we had an issue with one of the units, so it wasn't dehumidifying properly. And that's part of the reason the guest room in particular was a lot.
And
section of the building.
the board looked at this when we first started talking about this, and we looked at what it looked like, just straight dehumidifier, and we even looked at AC. AC was 3 times the cost. The dehumidifier was nice in the middle, and it gave us some of the benefits of having AC without having to pay for AC.
Right.
So we have done a lot of that talk already, I feel, but we can look at the numbers again.
Appreciate that, Ms. Fedbo. Mr. Hyde, you had a question?
Specifically in reference to the exhaust hoods, how often do they run? How long do they run for?
Dean, do you have any idea?
I'm just thinking, is it a couple hours a day?
We can find out from Cindy. I don't know.
Is a couple hours a day worth 67 grand? You know what I mean?
Well, those are all, we can get that, we'll get that answer, but
Yeah.
those are all questions that, we'll have to go through them and, try to create a package that we think is what we need. Thanks.
And certainly after the meeting, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them to me, to Bill. It doesn't matter.
Great, thank you. Again, Mike, thank you for
Thanks,
joining us. On next to the agenda, we have an extensive section on board goals, and I think if I could just introduce this, the board had talked about goals for the upcoming year at our planning meeting in the end of 2022-23 school year. So the 4 goals are developing a strategic plan, addressing facilities needs, hence the discussion we just had, improve school safety, wellness, and communication, and enhance staff mentoring programs. I think based on the discussion the board said previously, philosophically, I think there's a consensus that we, at this meeting, talk about these points. We figure out what committee work might be good to address that before the next board meeting and come back and report and have that kind of template for making progress in these goals. Some of these fit cleanly into existing committees, some of these did not. And I guess with that said, strategic plan, at our last meeting, we had authorized some money for a consultant. Mr. Rivera, go ahead.
I reached out to the consultant we used in Auburn, and he is kind of winding down his career in consulting. He's got one more project, and then he's gonna take some time off. We went through NHSBA to find him. So I was in touch with Barrett, who put me in touch with another consultant who, I got it right before the meeting, sent us basically some questions that we need to go over, what we want to look at. I showed him what Auburn did, and I was clear. I said, what Auburn did, but the process we want to follow or be similar in the sense of we have members of we have parents, we have administrators, we have teachers, board members, all part of the steering committee that would guide us, through the process. Once we kind of go through his questions that he gave us, I think we can then get a price to do the work. So that's where we're at.
Mr. Sullivan.
On that.
Claire, I think it's a good sense that we start a strategic plan. But I'm trying to, and of that strategic plan, I assume a good part of the plan would be something that we kind of just touched on, a strategic plan for facilities.
It would
Can you within that strategic plan, is there, what would and I should know this, but what would be the
it would be a focus.
The topics on which we would concentrate strategic plan for X, Y, and Z. What would X be? What would the strategic plan be in the subjects?
The subjects are open for what the steering committee determines.
Okay.
One of them would be a facilities focus area / goal we would have to have in that plan, especially, based on what Mike just, kind of clarified for us. We need a plan, to not only just to do this work, but to maintain everything we have. Not that Dean doesn't do that already, but we need specific areas, like who's going to do what's the date that things are going to get done by. Outside of facilities, you usually have districts will have a teaching and learning focus area that can be narrowed down, reshaped. In Auburn, they focused. They didn't start out this way, but they ended up with focusing on engaging all learners and through the use of project-based learning. And we're bringing in a consulting firm, and it's going to start later this month, to help train our admin team and our teachers who volunteer for this rollout. It's a 3-year plan. So within 3 years, teachers will be implementing at least one project-based, you want to call it a capstone, end of the year. It doesn't happen at the end of the year project. But for example, last year we did a Civil War. There was a Civil War presentation here provided by 2 of Matt's social studies teachers. It would be something similar to that it's a culminating project. Well, that's what they're doing in Auburn. What we want to do is what we decide we want to do. It's to be determined.
All right. So thank you. I was thinking that
the only limit is that again, we talked about it at the beginning when we were looking at the map. You want to focus. You don't want to have too many balls in the air. School districts really can only focus. It's just how we're built on 3 or 4 major goals over a 3 to 5 year period. Outside of those parameters, what goes in it is to be determined.
So thank you. Just so, as you indicated, a good portion of the strategic plan is facilities driven.
Well, no, that's just one piece.
One piece of it. So my question in regard to the one piece on the strategic planning dealing with facilities, if the board, so I'm asking should the strategic plan committee come back and discuss the facilities aspect before we commit to the project that Mr. Davy just referred to? I'm just wondering, because if we commit to a project like that, I don't know where we're going to go with that yet. I think all these things need to be done. How we do it, so do we do that before? If we do that before, that aspect of strategic planning,
You can still do,
okay.
that would still be part of your plan, because as he just mentioned, let's say the board said, we want to do everything but the vents for the kitchens. Or whatever
Okay.
we settle on. It's going to be a 2 to 3 year project. So you're going to need in your strategic plan, okay, well, it's going to be, that part of it kind of will be built for us by what, if it gets approved by the voters, we then have to put, because a strategic plan, you have multiple things going on at once. You just don't have focus area one, and that's all you work on. You work on right.
Coming up with new goals every year, we don't.
No, and I understand. I'm trying to get to, and I understand
The
that
answer-
aspect.
you
I'm
would need
I'm
to
on
move-
I'm on the facilities end of the strategic plan.
You need to move forward. The board needs to move forward or make a decision. If the board wants to move forward, it dovetails with whatever plan.
Okay, very good. That's what I was trying to get to. If we go with a decision on this presentation we just received, how does that impact the formulation and the results of the strategic plan committee, which has a component of facilities? I just want to know how that would
Once
impact.
the board determines what aspects, assuming we want to move forward with some aspects, we bundle it however we want to do it, and then we seek approval. In the meantime, in order to help educate voters and taxpayers, we need more detail from Mike, like what is the schedule? What school would be done first? So he would provide a lot of that. It would be a draft schedule, but it would be enough for us, to explain to people, to residents, here's what we're doing, the why, here's the timeline, and then that would get built into your strategic plan eventually, once it's approved by the school board.
Okay, thank you. I just was wondering how they exist independently, but how do they depend upon each other? Because if we're going to need all that information, that deadline for March
We would
is coming
rely,
quick.
Mike's going to send us the energy savings information, the cost for, Candia had to make a decision on the dehumidification units. And it was significantly less to go with just the regular units. They chose to go to the higher number, or the dehumidification units, 4 days like we had when we opened school. When I was over in Candia, when I walked into the main office, I thought the air condition was on, and then I had to be reminded, it's the new HVAC units, and we don't have air conditioning because we didn't ever installed it. It makes that big a difference. Now, obviously, on a second floor, like Cawley, it will lower it. It will take the edge off, so to speak. It's not going to be like, hey, I can wear shorts and it's comfortable, but it does reduce, and it does make it more comfortable for our students and for our kids when you get those days. And it seems like we get the days a little longer now in September than we used to. And we certainly, well, it didn't happen this June. Sometimes you get some tough Junes where, tongues are, hanging out because it's so uncomfortable. And it is really hard at the end of the year for teachers and kids to stay focused anyway. And when it's hot like that, it just makes the task nearly impossible.
And I thank you for that. Just one last point. Thank you, Mr. Ray. And that the facilities, what is needed facilities wise, certainly that's way out of my expertise. That's not, so that's why I'm depending on you and the staff and so forth, directors in that, because it looks like all those things need to be done, the timing and so forth. That's way out of my, so I just want to ask that. So I just want to know how that wouldn't interfere with the strategic plan, and I think you helped me understand that better. So thank you.
I guess my question at this point, for strategic plan, do we have action that we can do until we
No.
get a consultant? We're
No,
basically waiting until next month?
I'm gonna bring back, I'll send out the question, what he sent me.
Okay.
And then if we have a subcommittee, I would channel it, I'd come and meet with the subcommittee, and we could go through it and like how, at least for us to process it, and then it's gonna have to be brought back. Because it's gonna be a board discussion based on what I glanced at today.
Yeah.
It's not like 3 questions and you're done. It's pretty extensive.
We don't have.
Yeah, so we need to give that.
You could
homework
put that
at
into
home.
communication, because a strategic plan is, I don't know, not to give people work, but I'm giving myself work too. So, I don't know.
We could start there and kick it out if need be, but.
Or create a new one afterwards.
Yeah.
Because you don't need a strategic plan committee, because you'll eventually form a steering committee. And that will, then the steering committee, which will contain 3 board members, so you don't have a majority, and every month you report back. This is what we've been doing, here's where we are with the progress. So the steering committee members kind of become a subcommittee, a de facto subcommittee to the board. At least that's how it worked at home. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Any other questions or comments on that item? Ms. Linus?
So I'm coming in a little bit late to the game. Are we definitely going with energy efficient investments with? No. Okay.
Well, they're the consultant we've chose to use.
Okay.
What we do with their proposal hasn't been decided.
Okay.
That all those items, again, as I said beforehand, board may say it's too much money, we don't want to do anything, or prioritize we could bring Mike back. Mike prioritize the schools for us. Which one? It seems to me Memorial with the snow load issue. I didn't know that. Might be like priority 1 if we had to prioritize. But again, whenever you push out projects like this in size, he mentioned Keene, you get this escalating cost. That what cost? Remember we started talking. This was a $10 million nut. Now it's gone up a third. But that's the cost of construct. So whatever we settle on, that's something the board has to determine. Yes, it's a big nut, but if you push it out, and maybe we throw 7s every time we go to the voters, and each section gets approved, which would be great, but that cost is going to go up. You can do it used to be a 5% escalator. It's probably higher now. Every year you put something off, it used to be the cost will grow by 5%. I think it's close to probably 10. So you put stuff off that cost 15 million by 2 years, you're going to go up 10% a year, let's say. It's multiplicable. It's exponential, I should say.
So my follow-up, and I think you answered this, was that Mike can come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
we can bring him back for anything.
This is great information. These are very big numbers.
Right. And the board, I would say if you can, you kind of target areas that you think you'd want to do, and then maybe bring Mike back again. Say we need more information on whatever those items might be.
Scott, about Mr. Hyde?
So yes, Mike's been here. This is probably his 2nd or 3rd time here. And I think something we need to look at as well, and newer to the board, so we haven't heard some of this, is Dean has come to us about we need some pavement work in the parking lots of the schools. Colley's parking lot hasn't been done since it was built. With construction, there will be some other probably paving needs that will happen. We've been talking about now that All Day K is at Underhill. Underhill has no wiggle room whatsoever, and we are getting close to capacity there if we want to keep our classroom numbers where we like them, if not lower than what they've been, because they're starting to inch up. With enrollment is different than it's been in prior years. It's starting to inch up at those lower levels. And that's something we need to think about too, because I would hate to bring a $15 million plan to our taxpayers and then in 3 years go, oh, hey, we also have no room at the end and now we need a bunch of paving done too. Like, I think that, yes, we need to work on a lot of what Mike has brought us, but I think we also need to look hopefully with the strategic planning, a bigger picture, so that we can be really clear with our taxpayers that probably going to be coming back for more as well. It's not going to be like, you're not going to hear from us for 20 years, like the last time around.
And that's, Tilly makes a good point, because those are all things, those are the most immediate, like snow load issues. I'm not so much, but because of the snow load, the new building codes, you gotta make it stronger on the base. All those issues are all tied together, but you still need this done.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, some work needs to be done. Combined with, and this is more of part of our rollout, whatever the board chooses to do, we also have to we can't just not talk about that.
Right.
We say, yes, we're talking about, what I call, HVAC units, we're talking about hard stuff, but there are other issues that we may be coming, like you said, we may be probably at some point will. But that's also part of the strategic plan, to look at and make recommendations for the board to move forward in those other areas as well. Because class size at Underhill is a definite issue for us to wrestle with, and how we address that.
Dean, while we're looking at Mike's plan, can you also let us know about pavement? Like, what year were you thinking we needed it and what that number looks like? Because I think that's a number we need to look at as well.
Yes. So, parking lots, generally, we don't think about replacing parking lots. If you've been to our three schools, there are lots of patching. There are low areas that puddle at this point where drainage is an issue. We have granite curbing that's starting to pull away from sidewalks. It's not a do or die at this point, but it is something that we're going to have to talk about doing. Like Bill said, strategic planning. The 15 million did not include parking lots. We're looking at a total of about 1.8 to do all of the parking lots for all three schools. That includes driveway to the road all the way back, like with Colley, driveway all the way back to the back parking lot. It's everything around.
So 1.8 for all three?
All three, combined. Yes. As of right now. Yes, correct. And like Bill said, if you put it off, we're just paving in particular. The project to the end of the road ended up being more expensive than what he budgeted for 6 months ago when we had the issue. It's just within 6 months, the project went up. Part of it was because of the washaway, which hopefully we'll get some funding for, but even within the 6 months, we've already seen costs go up.
And we'll break it down when we do the budgeting, by school, which that's more, you can kind of go year to year, hit on, but those other items,
Again, just trying to be really transparent.
Yep.
When I brought this plan to the CIP committee, I had been going to budget. I was our budget liaison for 2 years, and was very, very upfront and open that we had this coming down the pike. And then I got, what do you mean? We haven't heard about this.
Right.
And I had been talking about it. So I just want to make sure that when we move forward with everything, that we're being really honest about, and this is just not everything. Like, we've got some other stuff coming down the pipeline.
One thing that came up after Mike had started to walk away, and he's going to bring to us as well, is he had talked about New Hampshire Saves and some energy programs that do offer reimbursements for some of this stuff. He didn't have those figures, so there are monies that may come away depending on what we decide to do.
He provided that for us in Candia.
Yeah.
And it was helpful to explain to voters how much you save.
Right.
Although since we went to the dehumidification, the numbers changed from the original.
But it's almost like you get the dehumidification for free.
That's one way to look. I wouldn't use the word that.
I wouldn't say free. Free energy-wise. Mr. Hyde's been trying to get in here as well.
I just want to sort of throw it, maybe ask a question and make a comment, I guess. But something that the town had done was this master plan thing. They spent a ton of money on it. They seem to spend a ton of money updating it. The problem with it and my concern with spending any money on, I like the idea of planning, particularly when it comes to fixed cost things like plant and computers and things like that. I like the idea of you said Auburn decided to go to this sort of, I don't know if to say teaching differently, but it's kind of is, right? They're going to, right. So that you have the opportunity to do that. My My concern with it is elections. They happen every year. Board members change. People resign and get replaced. And that master plan the town has had has been in existence since I moved into town 20 years ago. And I don't know how much of that plan was actually ever accomplished because of things like elections and economic cycles. And so I'm not opposed to going through the process. My concern is all of those things I just said. You don't want to go through all of this work and spend a bunch of money to do it, and then in the end, nothing happens, or it doesn't, things just kind of blow up in your face because of circumstances. And, I just don't want to waste the time and effort, your time, your staff's time, our time, if we can't see it through, I guess would be my concern.
We would be able to see it through, and it's a legitimate, point that you're making, Jason, is that, and I haven't done a few of these over my years as a principal and later as a superintendent, is if a district takes on too much, it will not be successful. In other words, if you could have just three focus areas or three goals, but if they're so elaborate and, you need a flow chart to find it, figure out who's doing what, that's not going to work. A truly effective strategic plan is one where you get the feedback from all your constituencies, your stakeholders, and it's doable. We control that. The steering committee and the board would control that. You control the final product. As the board gets reports back from the steering committee, if there's concerns and you want to put up a stop sign, that's the time you do it, so that the folks that are working on it aren't wasting their time. And if you, again, the facilities, because of the dollars I get, is the big piece, but it's just a piece. A lot is teaching and learning. I'm not going to lie, Auburn is committed and will be committing extra dollars for example, the training that I just mentioned is coming out of a federal grant, but they're willing, at some point, they know going in that this might cost more down the line, even though there's no dollar amount, but they're committed. Now, could they have an election in 2 or 3 years and that changes? Good. But, by then the inertia of the district is moving on that plan. And if it's in a short window, 3 to 5, my experiences can usually get most of it done. Again, it usually doesn't get done if it's too, like I've seen town master plans, that's an ice cream headache. Trying to read that stuff. What we're going to produce, our goal has to be something that's easy. We have to remember who our audience is, non-educators. Doesn't mean they're not educated or smart. You got to minimize the language, the acronyms. You got to be straightforward and clear so that anybody can pick it up and go, they may not agree with it. Oh, well, I don't, that's too much money, but at least they know what it is we're doing. And that's that's really the driving force of the steering committee. And also, it's hard for someone like me who wants to just do things. When you're with a group of people, you have to work together. A novel idea that you have to build consensus and strive, because there were things that all of us in Auburn did not get, including board members who wanted to, we could be arguing about a word, on how something's phrased, but you give up stuff to get a better plan. And that's, with a good facilitator, we'll be able to do that. And I think we'll be able to avoid that especially if we're conscious of it. And I've done a few.
Appreciate that input. I want to be mindful of time, and we have a bit more on the agenda. I'd like to move on, if we could, to facilities needs with a presentation. I guess the question is there committee work aside from communication, perhaps before the next meeting on that? We're getting a presentation. We need to
I will give the subcommittee the information. I'll give everybody what we got, but we can meet as a subcommittee before we meet to just kind of go over it and kick it around.
We don't have a facility subcommittee, so who do we hand that to?
pick a couple from big committees, I'd say like budget, a communication person, and, be on the vote committee.
Okay.
Who wants to volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
Initially.
Vanessa, yes.
I think.
Look at Lynn, just smiling.
And I think
that used to be me.
And I think Vanessa's going to be good because she's coming in completely new without any.
Absolutely.
Tabula rasa.
Like someone who's been here 20 years, maybe a little set in his ways. But who could that be? But
Same
again,
guy that's on the
if someone,
town council.
if there's a vacancy you want me, I'll serve. But if someone else wants to do it, I think communications wouldn't.
We'll sort it out, yeah.
Yeah, I would say Vanessa then, Lynn, because she sits on the budget committee, and then we are on.
Okay.
And me, I get to come.
And Bill is the special guest. Okay.
Special guest star.
I'll trade someone transportation.
Wow.
Even Vanessa doesn't raise her hand for that.
I was going to volunteer about busing that you and I could do some ride-alongs in the bus because we're the transportation committee, but we'll come back to that. We have the next goal: improve school safety, wellness, communication. I want to throw an idea out, and again, this doesn't have a specific committee, but talking with some folks at Old Home Day, talking with some of the board members, talking with people, there's interest in some of the programs that we've seen at others. Like Auburn has a boys and girls version of like Girls on the Run, and we talked a little bit with Vanessa about this at Old Home Day. I would like to see us budget, and we have a budget discussion later on for new business, but as we work on what we need, I think we're going to fund some of these things that we need to do, and we're still determining what that is. But I just notionally would like the idea of maybe some co-curricular positions or something at those goals as part of our budget season. So we could talk more budgeting, but that was one idea I had to move that forward. Curious if there's other board thoughts on that.
Wayne's looking for a line item for those items.
Yep.
Just try to get to the point.
And we'll talk about that in the budget.
You need to give us what those particular items would be that would
Wellness.
fit into that line item.
Both, yeah.
Well,
Student and staff wellness.
okay, well,
And then
that's
communication.
Yep. And I think we'll
Specific
talk
to what
specifics when we get
falls under
to new business beyond workshop discussion. So that was my sense there. I think for work before the next meeting is to gel what that could look like more specifically. Mr. Hyde.
So for the improving school safety part of it here, I think I don't want to
that box.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was driving at. I mean, just the money alone, $500,000 in 2 years on that topic, that speaks volumes in and of itself.
Something we can talk about.
And we can't talk about that here.
Well, but the cost we can, obviously. That's the only thing I mentioned.
Right. No,
But
that's right.
I think that's huge. In some policies that have been enacted with the badges and people signing in and things like this, I think that's important as well. The communication part, I think we've tried to do some of that, whether it's through surveys and the board chair report and things like that. We had talked about part of the communication was from the admin to staff, which is, I think, has been improved. Right. And then we had talked about like a newsletter or something like that. Or is that part? We had mentioned something like that in the past, and I don't know if that was ever not a newsletter, but like I can't even remember exactly what the heck it was, but okay. And then right. And then there was the compensation package thing, which is also part of communication, right? Communicating to staff what their total compensation is. So I think we've addressed some of that too. Not that we can't do more, but I think we're going down the right roads anyway.
Thank you. And then I think lastly, staff mentoring, and we've actually got teacher mentoring discussion right after the agenda. It's almost like we did that on purpose. So I want to hand it over to the superintendent and the mentoring committee.
I met with Anita and Kevin the last week in August. They asked to meet with me. They wanted to, the purpose to meet was to discuss getting a mentoring program up and running for this year. And I discussed that, they knew that Auburn they built their plan over the summer and it was being put into place for this year. So they asked if I could send them a copy, which I did. I then met with them last week and we went over HEA's proposal, and I've sent both to the board. I sent the board the Auburn program plan so you could just kind of see where this came from. This didn't come out of whole cloth. We wanted to, and I was in agreement with them, that we wanted to get at least a framework in place for this year to deal with our new teachers, with the understanding that there would be more work done to develop maybe a more robust plan or to add things to this. But, and I know Kevin and Anita are here, we think it's important that we get this up and running in the fall for our new staff. So I'll leave it at that for right now. I'm looking for approval.
Mr. Sullivan, go ahead.
I see, this looks, well, this looks, no, that's not the right word, excuse me.
Looks good.
I like it.
Wrong tense, or whatever it is. This looks very good. And so this was crafted by you and the two individuals you mentioned?
Kevin Fleury and Anita Field are the two co-presidents.
So you all agree, so you believe this is the first step that should be approved?
Yes.
And I agree with it. I like the changes. Having a mentor, though it was somewhat not official way back when I did some mentoring back here. Not for me, I was the mentee, thank you. It wasn't official, but I kind of gravitated to some of the older teachers who have been here, of course, towards the ones that were in my field. Of course, teaching in the other team in sixth grade for a little bit. I mean, I used the other person on the other side, which happened to be Mr. Fleury, for the science end in sixth grade. So thank you. You helped me a lot on that, by the way, sir. Discipline, that's another question, but that's another story. But I think we definitely need a good mentor program, more official, because who do I go to? Well, as a new teacher, you don't necessarily know who to go to at first, and you have ideas who to go to, but it takes a little while before you are comfortable with a certain one. So I would agree with this. So I would be willing to make a motion to support this. If you want to make a motion now, and then we can discuss. I'd like to but whatever you prefer, Mr. Chair.
No, I appreciate that.
I think this is good. This is good.
No, I like it as well. I was specifically wanting to get Ms. Tremblay and Ms. Baker's input as our mentoring committee folks on the articles.
So thank you for providing this. It's very different, I think, than what Ms. Baker and I were envisioning. This is more of a traditional one mentor, one mentee setup, which is fine.
One of the things that we didn't include in it is that there would be a mentor could have a cap of 2 mentees, and we would divide them into 3 buckets. But we understood that this is more traditional, but we didn't want to wait for something to come forward. So I explained to them some of our conversations that we've had in open session, and we want to move forward now and then revise later as we go.
And I absolutely, I think my point, and where the mentoring committee is coming from, is that we just want a mentoring program that's going to work for the teachers. So as long as, and I assume HEA took it to their membership or had conversations with them at some point. As long as this is what's going to work for them, that's great. And again, like Mr. Rurick said, with the understanding that we want to get something in place, there will be tweaks, there will be changes as things go. That's
as long as because this is for the staff. So if it works for the staff, then that's great by me.
Thank you, Ms. Tremblay. Ms. Baker?
How will we measure the success at the end of the year?
We would, through the conversations through the mentee and the mentor would provide the administration. Well, first of all, to be successful, we see buckets of teachers. We see our new teachers that is new 3 or less years. We would want them to have a mentor for the whole year. And we would follow these protocols. You then have teachers who are new to us but have years of experience somewhere else. By the first marking period, which is November, they should be pretty much set to go. Not that the mentor wouldn't work with them if needed, but for the most part, the regular meetings wouldn't be required. It's meant to support. And then the third bucket, and I can't say, but it's not a concern right now, would be a teacher who we were concerned with about performance. They would get one all year long. And there would be conversations, if a mentor had concerns or whatever about how a teacher was progressing, they would meet with the administration and share them. Nita, would you care to come up and Kevin? Because you told me you were going to be here and you wanted to talk, so. And you creeped up from back there to here, so.
There were questions being asked, so we thought we would just come forward. So one thing, just to.
You got to hit the green button. Make it.
She needs the mentor for that.
I do actually. Oh, I have to hold it up here.
That one you do.
Do I have to say my address before I sit up here? I didn't know what the protocol was. So just to address real quickly, Kevin and I did meet with Superintendent Rarick. We had brought this in through negotiations and was brought in. So we wanted to make sure we hit the ground running because we do know that there has been a turnover a little bit this year. And that's one thing our members have asked for. In regards to going to our members, we have not, because we weren't sure how much we were allowed to share right away because we didn't want to do it without the board's approval or without Mr. Rarick's approval as well. Basically, like he said, we didn't really change much from what Auburn had. This is supposed to be a fluid document that we can change and, with whatever committee is developed. And we did put that numerous times in here that based on what is put forward moving forward. We just really wanted to get something so that we can start with those people so that they do have support, especially because, being in there in the first year, it really is hard, and having people in your grade help you, it really does benefit. And
we also, not to interrupt, but we were also thinking if we had at least something in place that is a preliminary start, clearly not is the final product at all, but just so that there's a common experience from school to school to school, because there's people have been mentoring in different capacities, and what one person does in college might be different from what a second grade teacher is doing. So we wanted to see about having something common that everybody's kind of guaranteed at least the same experience, knowing that. And that's why I don't know if you guys got a cleaned up copy, but we had so many times in parentheses until the official one comes out,
That's the one they got.
Okay. So yeah, just to make sure, because we recognize too that, I honestly also believe that when a mentoring program does come out, the mentors shouldn't just be yeah, I'll do it. I think they should have training and know how to, I mean, we're all used to dealing with children, but with adults, there's egos and there's a way to say things without making, it's a different
and just to clarify, how to check in, I think the way that it was, what we borrowed from Auburn and kind of rewrote was that it would be constant communication with the administration and the mentor and mentee. So every party would be involved. It wouldn't be, say, for example, Kevin's mentoring me. He wouldn't be going to Mr. Benson and kind of a gotcha moment. It would be all three people would be in the room talking about what their goals are and how we can help them progress forward. So I think that's how we would check in.
I want to hop in before we get to Ms. Godbout here. Just topping, I appreciate the idea of the initial proposal. I know that we had a lot of input and contemplation by our mentoring committee over the year. I would love to see Ms. Field, Mr. Fleury, Ms. Tremblay, Ms. Baker, Mr. Rarick, and 2 mystery picks get together before our next meeting, look at the current document and see where you want to go with that. And I would be curious. No, go with the current document. I'm just saying, I don't want to lose the momentum on
Oh, I
the
see.
longer term
Oh,
vision.
to follow up.
Yeah, so I'd love to.
The more robust one. Gotcha.
That would be
Sorry.
my perspective. Ms. Godbout and Ms. Baker.
I understand we don't want to wait. We really tried to implement something last year and really actually didn't get a lot of support and input and help to get it going. So I'm glad everyone's on the same table this year, but I don't want to also throw something out that is going to be more confusing than not, because we're going to throw it out and then we're going to change it, and then we're going to change it, and then we're going to change it. So I would have loved to have seen some input from teachers that have been here 3 to 5 years, like, that are on the newer side, but also aren't overwhelmed at the moment, to see what their thoughts are on this. Also, we talk about, we want proper training for the mentor. What is that? What are we using? I want to know what we're using. And then I want to know who's in charge of all the mentors. Like, is this relying on the principal? Is this going to be a Megan McLean role? Is this going to be a Sonia role? Like, do we have a lead teacher at the grade levels that are going to take on mentors? I know we want to move forward. I would like us to move forward too. We have a ton of new staff, but I want to do it right. And I don't want to have to be tweaking it every year. I want this to be something that we can fly with, but solidly. And this leaves me with more questions now than I had before. So hopefully you guys can get together sooner than later and get some of this answered. And I would love some, like I said, those teachers from the 3 to 5 year span from each of the buildings. Because again, we hear a lot, well, they do this in this building, but you guys are silos. And I think anything we do, I think this board especially likes anything that we implement to be more of a district-wide approach than the silo approach.
This is. Every school would be doing it. They wouldn't be doing their own thing like they currently do, and on an informal basis.
But getting, input so that it doesn't
Okay.
like a silo.
Ms. Baker?
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I totally agree. It was just when the 5 of us had met this summer, I think that was mid-August at that point, and then we were realizing, wow, we have a lot of new people. And so the conversation just kind of lent itself to that, and then we were thinking, what can we do? We've got, stipend positions, people are interested in doing it, people want to help out. And so kind of here we are. But yeah, I agree. We like a lot of the stuff needs, and the more we talked about it and read about it, the more questions we even had. So it's definitely a thing that not 2 people can come up with, even if we have a great plan from another town. Definitely working together on it.
I talked before about how to assess how it's going, and one of the things that I worry about is we got to provide a minimum of 3 times during prep time for the new teacher, and mentors should be monthly with administrators. And I can see how this goes. The teacher has no free time, and staff meetings on this day and this day and this day, and you're going to have to make mentoring a priority if that's what we're going to do. It's got to be documented. Every time a mentor and a mentee meet, or, the principal and the mentee meet, I want to see documentation. There should be documentation on that. Every single time there's contact between the mentor and the mentee, even if it's just a note to say, I spent 15 minutes talking. But I think it's important that we have documentation.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Ms. Delanus, hop in.
Can I ask a couple of questions about it? So when I read it, I kind of wrote down 2 opposite things, right? So my first question is, how is anybody going to have time to do all of this, right? And then my second question was on the second page, where it says, observe the mentor at least once throughout the year. I'm not a teacher. Do you think that, and this is a genuine question, observing once is enough, or should it be more than once?
I think we put at least once just as like
Just
a
as the
basis, just
baseline?
so that it was
Okay.
there. And in regards to the question about giving up the prep times where it says 3 times a week, right now, I can speak to the grades in my building, and I know Mr. Fleury's building, and I'm pretty sure Memorial, but I don't want to speak for everybody without actually speaking to the membership. But a lot of us meet together because we have pods. So we have common planning time that is provided to us twice a week. And then we also have in our pods, so there's 4 of us in a pod. We do meet in one room and we plan. So to me, that is an opportunity where it's not really, you're getting a chance to talk with those teachers at that time. You're giving a chance for them to share if there's any concerns or a way to teach a strategy. And it's not so much taking away, because a lot of at least in our building especially, we do a lot together because it's very collaborative. And I'm assuming it's the same in the other buildings. So that's, I think when that was put in there, it was because we're already doing that, because we're so collaborative and working together and trying to help each other.
And because it is also stipend, it's also expected, or it shouldn't be unexpected, that a mentor and a mentee would meet after the school day. Doesn't have to be during the day, and because you're busy during the day. What Anita's talking about is the natural flow of a team meeting or a grade level meeting where you have those kind of conversations. But it's stipend, so because we're recognizing it's more. So you get paid for doing above and beyond what you normally would do. So that's why that's why we agreed in the contract to have it a stipend attached to it. So it would be held during the day. I've always found it to be more productive, not, maybe outside the day, because on the fly usually during the day, but that was my experience.
Question.
Follow up to Mr. Linus, then Mr. Tremblay.
And there are enough teacher volunteers that they want to do it. They wouldn't necessarily be assigned to do something that they don't want to do.
It's all volunteer.
It's all volunteer. That is correct.
After the school year is done, could that mentee-mentor relationship continue for the next school year?
I would say
If it
yes,
was
but that would be an administration.
Yes, it would be, if it was determined by the principal and the mentor and the mentee, that the support needed to continue to a second year, sure. There's no requirement that it's 1 year. In most cases, again, outside of that brand new teacher, the support should dissipate over the course of the school year, because a veteran teacher knows how to do things. Once you show them how to do it, by and large, most teachers are pretty self-sufficient as far as that goes.
Mr. Hyde. Oh, sorry. Ms. Tremblay was in queue, then Mr. Hyde, then I'd like to get in.
So I think, and this addresses some of Ms. Baker's concerns, and Ms. Scott actually, maybe we could get, you guys could create like a common form that everyone would use. And even something as simple as just a table where every time they meet with their mentor, whether it's through their normal, pod meetings or team meetings, they just put the date and then just what topics were discussed. And just as a record, and that would kind of formalize it a little more on both sides. So, and it would be consistent throughout the district.
Thank you, Ms. Tremblay. Mr. Hyde.
I was thinking a little bit of the same thing. We have a program in my company. They call it PAL, peer assisted learning kind of thing. And they pick high performers and folks who have leadership aspirations and all that kind of thing to lead new hires and whatnot. But there are those sorts of things in place to track all of that. So it's some sort of eval form, and it could be online, an online thing as opposed to a piece of paper because it's 2023. That being said, typically, and I know we're working with principals and teachers who have had a lot of experience and can share that experience with the newer folks. Typically, there is some kind of formal training. So I don't know if that is something that was discussed at your level, or typically there's at least something, it's an hour seminar, something to say, this is how the relationship should work. This is, this is why we do this. This is how we do this and all of that. So I would hope that some of that would be involved if we adopt this, which I think it's pretty good, but the eval form or sort of update form, whatever you want to call it, is important for circular communication with everybody.
We
And
didn't put it in the plan, but in Auburn, that's required for the mentors to submit to the principal.
Okay,
That-
yeah, there you go.
Because we
And
need to
then
know that.
some kind of training
that
as
the
well,
meetings are
but
taking place.
I think this is a pretty good start, other than that, and the fact that it's coming from the,
And again,
the
the
ground up
training-
is important too.
We would go over with whoever volunteers, kind of go through this with them. And again, it's not a true, okay, it's not a 2-hour training period for people, which is what we would evolve to. We would want that for anyone who wants to be a mentor. We want a more formal, a very formal. We know what we think it looks like. All of us here, sitting here, teachers out there, but we need to, that's the work of the subcommittee for us and with our teachers, is to work on what would the training look like for the mentor? Besides just tracking the records, what should take place in these conversations? Again, the people who volunteer now, who didn't do it for any money, have been mentoring forever. And I mean that in a good way. And our goal with working with the subcommittee and with Kevin and Anita and whoever else is to crystallize it and make it more, I don't want to say more formal because that kind of scares people, but protocols. Yeah, more structured than what you have here, but knowing and consistent that it's done in all 3 schools the same way. And that was part of the communication goal that you mentioned. You just mentioned it again. That we want is to break those silos down. And I know we've talked, the 3 of us, we're in agreement that we need to do that. And we thought that this would be a good first step. And all the things that have been mentioned are all important to do. But I do believe we can get it off the ground, sooner rather than later. But it's up to them. And I agree, Julie made a good point. We don't want this to fail either, but they needed our approval before they could take it back to their membership, because we wouldn't be too thrilled if they said, hey, membership, here's the mentoring plan. And then we'd be going, what mentoring plan? Right? So we'll get feedback from them before it gets implemented.
Can
I want to,
Can I just add real quick just to clarify for Mr. Hyde? For anybody watching, I know you said the word evaluative. I can't say that word right now. Valuative, whatever the word is. It's been a long day. I just wanted to make it very clear that the mentors would not be evaluating their mentees. That is not the point of this. It is to help guide them. I know that's just the word that you guys probably use, but for anybody listening to this meeting, I don't want them to think that the mentors would have anything to do with an evaluate, and it's nothing to grow.
Not tied to it at all.
They're not tied to it, and it's not a gotcha moment. Like when the meetings happen with the administrators, everyone will be present and everyone will hear the same consistent message, and it is only to be goal driven to help our teachers.
Because what we've talked about, retention and recruitment. We've recruited, now we need to retain by supporting them. I mean, it's a big aspect, and that's what we're trying, that's all our goal, is to hold on to these folks that we've spent a lot of time recruiting and eventually training.
Oh, no, I didn't.
No, it's just.
It was anybody listening. I didn't want them to hear evaluate.
Again, as we said, we have our own acronyms, but that's like a flashpoint. Right, no, we understand. Yeah, we understand.
There's been a lot of discussion. I just want to time check. It's 8:15. It's been a long evening so far. I want to offer a solution which I think brings it all together. One question I had was, we do have non-union members, and I wonder how they get to be part of this process. And so I requested the idea that maybe this next meeting with our mentorship committee, Mr. Rarick, you two, maybe we add a 3 to 5 year experienced teacher and find someone who's not a union member, just to add that perspective. I would be, we don't want to wait till October to do something because folks are in the building now. At the flip side, I trust our mentoring committee to provide some input. So I would propose that maybe this mentoring committee get together in the next week, if we can swing it. You do a final tweak to the process, and what you're cool with as a group is what you roll out. So it's a chance to have a final refinement session beyond the board meeting tonight. We're not waiting until October to do it, but it's something to go out. So I'd like to float that idea.
Just realistically, they need time to call a meeting, get feedback, however they get it, whether it's everyone in one room, survey, however HEA gets that information. We then, while that's going on, we would need to, they can't do anything without the feedback, would be my guess. In other words, they need to go to their members, get the feedback, then we can meet. So that's like a week. I mean, not to stretch it out, but realistically, it's a week at least to get the meeting, notify, let people plan. Then we can meet after you guys tell us, yep, we get the feedback, then we can go. So it's really a 2-week. We're looking at 2 weeks, week for them, and then we do our subcommittee. Just practical scheduling.
Ms. Tremblay.
So, no, I think the meeting is a good idea, but I'm wondering for scheduling sake, first of all, but also, I mean, like you said, I trust that they know what the teachers need, right? I'm almost wondering if we can, and I'll make the motion, approve the mentoring program that was presented, and then plan to have a meeting on our next subcommittee night, which would be in October, I believe. And then we can sort of hash out some of those more specifics and get an idea of how it's going in the beginning. I don't want to micromanage it, and I don't think that's our role. But it would be nice to have sort of a follow-up meeting and talk about those things. That's just a suggestion.
I agree, except that I think we do need some feedback from I think they need to bring it and make sure that the union is okay with this. So I would like to, yes, we do need to get some feedback.
So
Can you make the motion, a motion contingent upon, unless it's a tidal wave of no?
yeah,
I don't think it will.
I don't
Which
think
you
it-
don't think it will be, a motion contingent upon feedback, receiving the feedback, unless it's something that's totally out of kilter.
Yeah.
We begin the process, we then meet with the subcommittee and begin the roll of the ball.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the mentoring program developed by HEA and administration, contingent upon HEA membership feedback.
Motion by Ms. Tremblay, second by Ms. Baker. Any other discussion on that robust topic?
We used robust twice tonight.
We'll use it some more.
$10 word.
Can I just
Ms. Linus, yes.
when I asked if the mentoring relationship could continue, I was asking it in a positive way. I also have a mentor program at my work. It's supposed to be for a year and a half. It continues for a lot longer. And so if the teacher wanted it, that was really my question. Could that
And I think that's, sorry.
I think that's the benefit of keeping it in the buildings at different grade levels, when possible, because it's very rare that we have teachers move grade levels. So we would keep that mentorship, and I think it would blossom into a very
Okay.
nice,
Good.
And I think that's something we can build upon, Vanessa, that, we didn't really think that it would go beyond a year, but that's something we certainly, as a group, we could, if needed or if wanted by the mentee, go another, say up to 2 years that we run it, or whatever, but I think that's a good idea to consider.
Right.
But formally, maybe extend it, but hopefully, it will last much longer than maybe a year or two.
Hearing no other
I was
discussion.
mistaken, Mr. Largy doesn't have a question.
Hearing no other discussion, let's call the vote. I think all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is unanimous. Thank you. With the board's consent, I'd like to take a 10-minute break at this point.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Romo, welcome back to the
Right.
school board meeting September 19th. New business A, accept Hooksett Memorial School donation, Mr. Largy. Come on up front, please.
Promise I'm not asking for these donations. I know it's my second trip up this year, but we had a parent reach out that works for a company that produces various, devices, or if you went on their website, you can see some of the products they have. But basically, they were asking if we wanted any. They're called Trebos, and it's from Yogi Bo, I believe it's pronounced. But it's a portable kind of desktop with a cushion bottom with a hard top on top, and they offered to give us 30 of them, and they retail at roughly like $59, so it's about a $1,700 donation. And I brought this to Bill because there was a specific reason where we would use them. Certainly, I would not budget for these for every classroom. I don't think it'd be appropriate for that, but where we do have our common area, we're starting to repurpose that space for more educational opportunities. We have a TV in there now with an Apple TV, so more larger group instructional opportunities could happen there. For those of you who know what our planetarium is that our fifth graders recreate, that's where they do that, and it has some kind of like stadium seating that's carpeted. And I will often walk by on the way to lunch duty and see students like laying on the ground, filling out like different worksheets or related materials for the assignment, and writing on carpet with pencils on paper is not great. And certainly our students have their devices with them too. So it's just, I could even just quickly walk around. I have a visual of one on my computer if it's not part of the packet, but it is really just like a pillow top with a desktop on top of it. And we're going to find a way to, store 30 of them right there. And so when a teacher comes down to use that space for instructional activity, there's a hard surface for students to either write on, like in a mobile fashion, or use their laptops on. So it seems awesome. I wouldn't ever ask for them for like entire class sets for the building, but for that specific space, I think it's appropriate. Yeah, we'll see what we get for colors.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve and accept the donation of the 30 Yogi Bo Trebos.
Close enough.
I think that's pronunciation. Thank you. Motion by Mr. Sullivan, second by Ms. Codboat. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
And none were opposed or abstained, so thank you.
Mr. Largy, could you get me a contact name and address so I could send a thank you?
Will do.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this anything that Christine could take advantage for a few of the special education kids?
Yes, I think so. I think even our classrooms are set up with some flexible seating sometimes, and some corners that are used. I know when our teachers at Memorial, they do a lot of workshop groups. So while the teacher's working small group with one, there's other pockets of students doing other things. There's a need for it in. I'd say it could absolutely be used, but our classrooms definitely have a hard, flat surface for them to complete work on.
Well,
This is, yeah.
I'm thinking it's a nice snuggly kind of place. If a kid was having trouble staying in his seat or something like that, that it could be used not for a lot of kids, but maybe
Some.
one or two kids that might benefit from
And
it.
I can share this with her as well, and certainly.
Good.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you. Moving on, next item is our budget workshop dates.
Yep,
Maybe
we
some
need to
items.
pick some.
Yeah.
Now, we help try to move this along. We have our regular meeting on the 17th. I would ask the board to consider that being our budget workshop day. And then the following Tuesday, the 24th, be our regular meeting. In other words, we do the budget, you then vote on moving it forward on the 24th, on whatever other business we would do. Our regular meeting would be the 24th, and the budget workshop being on the 17th. That's normally how we normally stack them.
I'm maybe misremembering. I thought we had a budget presentation in front of a board meeting previously, and then we had like the robust third time for the meeting, budget discussion. The following meeting is a special budget workshop. But do you want to?
I think you do a budget workshop first. We go over the budget. We talk about what you want to see in the final, but you're not going to agree. I hope you do. But I would like to think you have something to say with what we present, on the 17th.
Yeah.
Well, that's also 20 plus years doing this job. Yeah, you're going to want to revise it and make changes, ask questions. The principals will be here, Chris will be here, Dean, everybody, doing, it's really for us to do it. I mean, if you want to do a meeting after that, it's just that, I don't know. We may have done it that way. I think if you separate them, it's easier, but it's.
No, I agree. 2 meetings. I guess we get the books, we have a chance to review them. We have a presentation, we ask questions, we maybe have some feedback at that point, but then you get the week to
Right.
I really wish
That's
we
what I
allocated
just
more
said.
favor. Okay.
That's what I presented.
Yes.
We've done it a little different. We've come an hour early, we've gotten the presentation.
And it goes longer than an
moved
hour.
on to a regular meeting, and then come
Regular,
back
yeah.
for just, this is what we're gonna vote, this is what we want to do, after having a week to think about it, tweak. Either way gets it done.
Either or.
Either
Just
way
pick the
gets it done.
dates. Just tell us what you want to do.
And then whatever we pick, I would pass on to the budget committee. They'd like to be at those meetings, they like to know about them. They're special.
And we feed them like we did today, or historically we have anyway.
No.
Last three.
So the next 2 meetings we're talking about are really focused on our budget. And we don't really present our budget to the budget committee until like a month or so after that, because it's got to be a day Mr. Rarick can attend with all of his entourage. So we like them to come to our budget meeting, here, our workshop meeting, so they can see why we're coming to the conclusions we're coming to.
Like on the 17th?
Yes. So
Well,
if that's
whatever.
what we say.
I said we can't meet on the 10th because I'm in Auburn.
Yep.
So the board can either do October 3rd, which I think is a subcommittee meeting night.
Right.
That's too soon.
So
Yeah.
then, and we're not ready yet. So
I say 17th, 24th.
those are the 2 dates. What you want to do on them, that's all you got to tell us and we can move on. We'll do it either
Yeah,
way.
I like the
That
2
makes
dates.
sense to me too. And I believe we'll get, that won't, on the 17th, we won't get the books for the first time. It will be available.
You'll have the books ahead of that.
And ahead of schedule, so.
And we won't be in a rush to move to the regular meeting, so we can take our time to ask questions and dig through, and hopefully
And you
everybody
can
will
still-
have looked at the books ahead of time.
And on the 24th, Wayne, on the 24th, we can still meet at 5 or 5:15
And do a vote.
and do more, follow up with the budget, any loose ends, vote on it, and then at 6, we do our regular. Does that work?
Fair.
Works good.
No, wait a minute. So on the 17th,
We're
we
gonna-
need to do budget.
We're going to do budget
And then on the 24th,
at 5:15.
What time on the 17th?
17th, we meet at our regular time.
6 o'clock.
Okay, what time on the 24th?
I would say we meet at 5:15 if that's works for everybody. That gives us 45 minutes to wrap up. And if we have to go over, that's fine. But by then, on the 17th, you provide the feedback. We then make the changes. We bring them back to you. Here's the changes that you asked for on the 24th. And then we vote to move it forward. Or, make any more minor adjustments. That's usually what happens. And then we say, okay, we're good with the number and we move it forward. And hopefully the budget committee will get the dates to us. Their meeting dates, their schedules, simply so I can plug myself in because I got to work around Candia and Auburn dates as well. And I try to it's like going to your in-laws, families for Christmas, you alternate. So I try to give quote the better dates. I try to rotate them. So it's not always the easiest.
And it's usually the every other year it's better than the year before. teasing.
The meetings are always.
No, no,
good.
no, it was a holiday joke.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Huh.
Right, because
Yeah.
I get it.
Those were always a good thing.
Pretty sure that.
No, I get it.
That's on the 3rd.
The third is on the.
I believe the
October
first
3rd
is the subcommittees, right?
Um,
Sounds good.
this,
And that's at 6:30.
6 o'clock. Yep. I'm not sure if this is stretching the agenda item slightly, but I'll mention it and I'll get the board feedback. Talking with folks at the Old Home Day and just previous discussion with the superintendent, there's a few things we haven't budgeted, and I don't know if we just talk about some line items, what those should be, and we have the line items, we actually talk about values at our budget meeting, but we do outreach like coffees with the board and things like that. We don't have a budget line for that. I'd like to actually have a formal budget line for school board outreach. We talked about wellness. I don't know that we need to pick a number, but I would like us to think about budgeting for wellness. We had an SRO in a previous budget. We were co-funding the school resource officer. That was a complicated history because we had it in the budget. There was a default budget that year, so it wasn't part of, the new lines weren't added to the budget and it wasn't carried forward. But that was something past board, I think you and I and Jim were on at the time, had done. So that might be something to consider. There was some discussion about possibly funding field trips. I don't know if that comes into a school board budget or something else. So I don't know if you need that now or just we add those items after we talk to you in October.
I would say you add them in October.
Okay.
Give you time to think about them. You have a
See
school.
what the number looks like.
The number, I can tell you, special ed, surprise, is really high based on Chris said don't show anybody anything because she's still got work to do, but.
She's out like 20 students again this year. Look at the flow
I
chart.
know, that's what I said to Jim, it's not good news that federal
Yeah.
aid increases.
Mr. Hyde.
I just, again, might be premature, but you mentioned things that you might want to see in the budget. I think some of the things in that plan we saw earlier could be worked in, given that even every single year, including the last couple of years, we've underspent by over $1 million. So I think there's opportunity here to put some of those items, maybe one per school, something like that, into the budget.
That would be the conversation on the 17th. Right. That's all for, whether it's $1,000 for outreach, capital item for each school, that's all. I'm not going to be presumptuous and go, okay, we should do this one, and this. No. That will be the feedback we get. And same with even the smaller items that you just mentioned.
Right.
You just tell us and we put the number in.
Okay.
But I think you need to see the whole number first before you, as Jillian said, before we start adding
Fair perspective.
significant numbers.
I guess that would be the other thing. I'll say the same thing I say every year. Find out where that 1.2 or 1.3 million was and either reallocate it to other things or peel it back if you can to offset increases in other areas.
I'll defer to Corey. Wasn't some of that revenue just revenue that we get that we had to turn back? But yes, I understand what you mean. We can break down the number and show everybody.
It's late and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but we were tight last year. We opened up a trust fund last year, Mr. Hyde. So I mean,
No, but what Jason's talking about at the end, when we cash out, so to speak, and we had some fund balance, the quote checking account, I call it, what we spend day to day on items. That's one amount. Then there's the bigger amount, which is our revenue that we get sent to us, which you can use if you go through all of the checking account money. And we talked about it, and we just didn't want to do that, so we tapped into some of the fund trust funds. But what Jason's referencing is at the end of the year, when we give back to the town X, it's just not the fund balance. It's all revenue that goes back. So I think that's what Jason's referencing. But we were tight. Both things are correct. We did have to go to the trust funds because operationally we wanted wiggle room. So we didn't have to Because then you got to go to the state, ask for permission, blah, blah, blah. We didn't want to do that, and we didn't have to, thankfully. And we did finish with enough to do extra things outside the budget and then still turn money back. The revenue, though, it's a little harder to, well, we'll break it down.
Yep.
We need to know what is revenue and what's not revenue.
Fair enough. Appreciate those clarifications. Should we move on? Yes. Policies AC, GBAA, and GBAA and JBAA, which were approved at the board last week.
Yes. Jason brought to our attention an issue regarding Meg serving as the Title IX coordinator. And it turns up in these three policies. Not necessarily Title IX, but if there's ever an appeal that was made or a complaint filed that had to deal with Brad, should have a conflict. Now, the board can leave it as is, which I wouldn't recommend, and just, I would say, change the, all it is someone who voted in the affirmative, right? Jim, you're the rules guy, and then
Well, what we can do, it's not really a
ask for,
we don't need a reconsideration occurs on the day of the
Oh, it's
meeting.
the day of the meeting.
Reading, so all we need to do is
change it.
someone needs to make a motion to amend what are those three policies to
AC,
change?
GBA, JBA. I would recommend that you replace Meg's name with my name. Or that's not my name, superintendent of schools and/or his/her designee.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the policies presented under GBAA, AC, and JBBA to reflect the change of the Director of Curriculum Instruction Assessment to the Superintendent of Superintendents and waive the second reading requirement.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan. Is there a
I will
second?
second with one clarification. It's JBAA, not JBBA.
All the letters, it gets
JBA.
alphabets. Why they don't use
It
numbers.
does, but they do have.
They do. Why they don't use numbers in New Hampshire is beyond me, but they don't.
Second by Mr. Hyde with that clarification. Any other discussion on the motion? Ms. Tremblay.
I just want to get the wording right. So I have amend policies AC, GBAA, and JBAA to replace Director of Curriculum Instruction Assessment with Superintendent or their designee.
His/her designee.
And AC, policy AC. Okay.
Yeah, it's AC. And to waive the second reading. So it goes into effect after the vote.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, those in favor of the oh, sorry, Ms. Godbout. She snuck in before I could say.
No, I had my hand waved. You didn't see it. I just like to go on record to point out the fact that I did vote these policies down last month because I read them and saw that.
Any other discussion?
Future rep, you see something that doesn't fit your needs?
down and there was no discussion. So
Oh, I'm sorry. You're good. No, I'm thank you for sharing that, but
We're all in the same sandbox.
yes.
All those in
Play
favor
nice.
say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or
My
abstentions?
shovel's starting to get half full.
Hearing none, motion's unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, policy discussion brought to us by Ms. Godbout, Administrative Management and Hiring Committee. Ms. Godbout.
with a lot of the talk we did about different management, admin positions this year and non-public talk about bonuses, raises, however we want to word it, and the hiring of a few this past year, I thought it would be, we always have a lot of questions. And I think to clarify some of those questions, I would like to see a representative on the board on any hiring committees for any admin. I just think it would clarify a lot of things. Selection committee.
You hire, the board hires, the selection committee picks. For any administrator, I'd be on it anyway. So And that's not uncommon for the board. You can create whatever you guys want. Just take the vote.
A motion to have a school board representative on any selection committee administrative position.
Motion by Ms. Godbout,
Good idea.
second by Ms. Tremblay. Any other discussion on the motion?
That makes sense. Somehow, a long time ago, the first decade I was in, I know some of the positions, vice principal, there was a school board member, and occasionally it was depending on the circumstances, a parent. But having that make sense. How that changed over the period, I don't think it got worse or better because of that. But I think that having that,
Excuse me, we
makes
have
sense.
parents on those selection committees.
Yeah, so
Um,
that makes sense.
I want to give Ms. Tremblay a chance to speak for a second if she wishes.
I just think it's a good idea.
I would
Well
like to hop in.
said.
I love the policy idea. I'd like to see it be a policy. It could be like a 3-sentence policy, but I think it should be policy. So seeing head nodding, I'd like to amend Ms. Godbout's motion to be ask the policy committee to create a policy for the aforementioned goal.
Easy peasy, as they say.
I need a second on that amendment.
Second.
I'll second.
That moves it along.
I got Mr. Hyde for the second. Chuck, do you want to talk to a second on the amendment?
Yeah, I think that could be very easily a couple sentences, and we'll put it in place.
All those in favor of the amendment to make Ms. Godbout's motion a policy item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The amended motion is create a policy for a board representative on selection committees.
Excuse me.
Correct. We have the amended one on the table now. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Motion is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to personnel.
Yep, I asked the board to accept the notification of retirement request from Michelle Fuller and Laura Levesque.
Move to accept. Go ahead, Jillian.
Move to accept the retirements?
Retirement
Ments, yeah,
notification, yep.
of Mrs. Fuller, and Mrs. Levesque with heavy hearts. This will be big shoes to fill in this district. They've been with us for a long time, and they have built themselves a very positive.
Yes, they have.
Second to Mr. Sullivan, I'm assuming.
Yes, and again, thank you. Great teachers. And they certainly probably they were mentors before we even had mentors.
Ms. Baker, go ahead.
Does this mean they're retiring in June
Yes.
of this year?
Yes, they have to. Teachers need to notify us by October 1st so they can get the retirement stipend. Yes. So the window's still open, but it's closing.
The deadline?
It's October 1st.
So we could see.
Yeah, we could get a couple in for our October meeting.
All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Motion's unanimous. Thank you. Co-curricular nominations, Mr. Rarick.
Yeah, I asked the board to accept the athletic nominations, and we'll do them if it's okay with you, Wayne. Accept the athletic nominations and co-curricular nominations as presented.
I think that is fine. I'll look for that motion. Moved by Ms. Tremblay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hyde. Any discussion? Ms. Baker.
I'm just curious how the amounts get assigned.
Their contract, we negotiate them,
You negotiate them with
the union.
the union.
It's listed in the contract. They have each activity.
Okay.
Listed.
Other discussion?
Finish your sentence, Bill.
Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Motion's unanimous. Hearing none. Moving on. Policies. First reading of a whole bunch.
Yep.
Mr. Rarick.
The first is first aid and emergency medical care, where the subcommittee is adding language to allow for the administration of bronchodilators when necessary. This is recommended to us by our school nurses, and we're bringing it forward for board consideration. The next policy, which I'm asking for the waiving of the second reading, is policy JLCJA, emergency plan for sports-related injuries and additional protocols for athletic participation. We added language that needs to be, and I don't really know the why part, other than we're told that it has to be part of our emergency management plan that we submit to the state. We have to demonstrate that we have this policy in place in order for them to accept our whole plan. When Matt sends it in for Colley, we have to show that we have this policy regarding protocols for when it gets too hot outside. They use the wet bulb index, which I had to research. And Matt tried his best to explain it to the three of us. I just recommend, that when it comes back that we waive the second reading on that. Homework, no changes were made. It's just old, and we just wanted to review it. Same with compulsory attendance, which is policy, homework is policy IKB. Compulsory attendance age is JEA. Speakers and programs is IMC. Educational evaluation of instructional programs, IL, no changes. Awards and scholarships, IKG, no changes. And no educational questionnaires, surveys, and research. We had to make a couple of changes on this one so we're compliant. I gotta go pull it. Yeah, it's the last page. It's for any non-educational survey, and the subcommittee kind of talked about what that would look like, and Matt kind of gave us a couple of good samples. If we had a high school, some high schools may have sent surveys to students regarding tobacco use, drug use, sex type of some survey dealing with sex or whatever. So if a school wanted to do that, you have to post the survey 10 days in advance before it goes out. We need to put the language in simply because we need to be compliant. I really don't see how that would apply to us ever.
Doesn't really come up.
Not for us. I mean, we were hard pressed to come up with examples that would apply to. And again, it's non-educated, it's not regular surveys like we send out that are school related. It's non-educational. And I mean, you could argue that those other items are educational to some degree, but it's not how the state interprets it anyway.
And just, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, and under speakers and program, we did, Mr. Rarick, we did add a note that someone can opt out of that program.
Yes.
To speak if they feel.
Which they've always had that.
Which they always did, but we just added it to a little clarity.
Thank you, Jim.
On attendance policy, it's literally one sentence. Is that like a legal thing that we have to have?
I'd have it just to say we have it because someone.
It's already an RSA, like we're literally citing an RSA inside of the policy.
You can ditch it if you want. We just didn't want to. We don't feel like sometimes we know we can recommend that.
It's just a question.
We didn't. The subcommittee did not feel strongly on that question.
Ms. Scott,
We have no position on that.
as a board member, I mean, if you want to jettison it, that's a motion.
It's one less thing that's
No,
in the
we have a
book.
lot of talk about having a policy that just cites another policy, and that's not necessarily good policy etiquette. Look, I'm learning
It's a good-
something.
A good point. It's a good point.
A quick question
Very
that I
valid point.
did to Mr. Sullivan. This I don't actually mind that much because it just simply, this is an RSA we follow. I think we had like budget, so we had like finance law, RSA 32 in like one of our policies, and it was like word for word. So when the policy changed, had to change because the law changed. So this is like, it's like an index. Hey, there's this law we're following. That's not as we
Actually,
paraphrasing
after
text, yeah.
Jillian brings it up, I think that's a good idea. Seriously.
All right,
If it's an RSA, you don't need the,
I'd like to make a couple of motions. I'd like to remove JEE from our policies.
JEA.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan, second by Ms. Godbout. Speak to your motion, Mr. Sullivan.
Based on the conversation, we don't need it.
Ms. Godbout, anything else to add? Any other discussion on the motion?
Goodbye.
All in favor?
All in favor, say goodbye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve JLCJA and waive the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan and second by Mr. Hyde.
CJA.
It's the second one.
There's a third one in the package.
No.
Do you want
Move to
JL.
adopt
This one.
JLCJA and remove the second reading requirement per policy.
See, I was actually paying attention.
Well, I'm looking at here and it's the third one here.
Yes.
Any other, second by Mr. Hyde. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining? Motion's unanimous. Thank you. Mr.
And I'd
Sullivan,
like to
you have
make a
roll.
motion to approve the first reading for the remaining items, JLCE, IKB, IMC, IL, IKG, and ILD. ILD.
Oh, sorry, 80 was in the agenda but not on the table. That's how I was confused about which was the second or third one.
No, no AD.
Okay.
No AD. Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan, second by Mr. Hyde. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Motion's unanimous. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a
Hyde.
quick ask that we get the policy index updated to remove JEA.
Yes.
Update the policy index that we have. We just have to update it. Dan has. We did that last year.
And
it's the online.
The online policy index.
We created it. It's been created.
Awesome.
Just one question, Mr. Eric. I know we had discussions at the policy on AD. I forgot what we wanted to do with that. It was a strategic planning committee. Okay. Thank you.
Up next is the expenditure report. Mr. Zbicki, good evening.
You got to.
Oh, huh?
Well, you got to approve them.
We need to approve those, yes. Expenditure reports first.
Do you have
Any comments for Mr. Zbicki on the expenditure report? Oh, yes, for the manifest approval. Hearing none, thank you for the report. Next item on the agenda is manifest approvals, and we neglected at our last meeting, specifically I neglected to approve the manifest from our August meeting. So we've got a chunk which are actually, specifically they're approved when a school board member approves the manifest, but the board didn't approve them, so we need to do that for this month and the previous month. So Ms. Tremblay has the gigantic list.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the manifest of August 5th through the 18th in the amount of $1,709,279.32.
I'll second that motion. Roll call vote, Ms. Tremblay.
Mr. Jelinas, I'll call you first since you're new here.
Yay.
Ms. Godbout,
Yay.
Mr. Hyde,
Aye.
Ms. Baker, Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
I'm a yes, Mr. Gortel.
Yes. Ms. Baker.
We approve the manifest every month, and we're just behind one.
Yep.
We do vote on every. Okay.
Yeah, it's
You know, when I said you go to the SAU
Yeah.
office and you go through
Yeah.
all of it, so this is the stack that somebody from our board has already scanned and double checked, and then as a board, we have to do a vote.
Okay.
And then we'll pass it around and we'll all sign it, and while you're signing, you can do that before we vote, so you can skim it too, so you can feel comfortable about it.
Okay.
And when it's past due spending money, we have to have a roll call vote. That's why.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, anything with high value, you do a vote.
Okay.
Actually, any value.
Any value, yeah.
Value even like 20 now?
Anything under 500, if it's donation, I can do without.
Right, that's high value.
All right, motion to approve the manifest from August 19th to September 1st, in the amount of $921,333.59. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Well, I think Mr. Hyde beat you to it. But you get the next one. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Tremblay.
I'm a yes. Ms. Godbout?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan? Ms. Jelinas? And Mr. Rattel?
Yes. Motion's unanimous. Thank you.
There's one more. One
They'll come
more.
around, yeah.
One more.
We have to do non-public, so.
Love a
we got
chance
some
there.
time. Sorry, Jim. Said non-public. I'd love to play poker against you.
That'd be fun, right?
A lot of money.
Okay, last one. Make a motion to approve the manifest for September 2nd through September 15th in the amount of $1,365,790.12.
Ms. Baker for the second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Sullivan?
Aye.
Mrs. Jelinas?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Gubbout? Yes. Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Gortel?
Yes. Thank you
That's it.
for those. Okay, at this point, we have our second opportunity for the public to address the board. The public has left us. It is almost 9:15. I'd like to motion to go into non-public per RSA 91A 3, Section 2L.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Godbout. Roll call vote in non-public, please, Ms. Tremblay.
Yes. Who seconded?
Ms. Godbout did. She got to it first.
You gotta stay for this. That's fine.
Entering non-public. Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Sullivan? Jim?
Jim?
Yes.
Mrs. Jelinas?
Yeah.
I'm a yes. Mr. Gortel?
Yes.
Ms. Godbout?
Yeah.
Ms. Baker? Mr. Hyde?
Aye.
Okay. And that concludes our non-public business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It is 9:54, so thank you, board, for a long meeting. Motion by Mr. Hyde, second by Ms. Tremblay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Have a good night. Thank you.